Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the May 1st Caucus meeting for the City of Brook Park. Michelle, please call the roll.
Scott.
Here.
Persia.
Here.
Orcutt.
Here.
Stem.
Here.
Mancini.
Here.
Poindexter.
Here.
Salvatore.
Here.
If everyone would, please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving to item 3, under discussion, the first item is an ordinance amending ordinance number 11,017-2018, the appropriation ordinance for the City of Brook Park and declaring an emergency, introduced by Council President Vecchio, Council Members Scott, Bergio, Orcutt, Salvatore, and Stem, per Council President Vecchio. Mr. Scott?
Yeah, they neglected to add Mr. Mancini onto this as a support because he got back to me too late on Friday, so if we would.
Mr. Mancini, you'd also like to be in support of?
Yeah, absolutely. I might not with everything that we had, but I'm fine with this. Let's move ahead, absolutely.
Michelle, would you please add Mr. Mancini as also an introducer?
Will do.
Mr. Poindexter?
Thank you, Council President. I did not want to be part of supporting this ordinance coming forward because I think the cuts go a little too deep to our safety department, and I think it goes a little too deep to our recreation department. I understand the need for our roads to be fixed, but I also understand the need to upgrade some of our safety forces in our rec center. So I will not be supporting this ordinance today, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Salvatore?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will be supporting it, and I do want my name on there. I don't really look at them as cuts. I look like a little postponement because I do know that as we move forward and get into the latter part of the year, that I think that if there's some new monies found that doesn't get transferred into the 2019 roads program, 2018-2019 roads program, we'll be able to look at possibly getting another police cruiser, and maybe even looking at a couple things, depending on how the pricing comes in, on the improvements that our recreation director wants to make. If we fall short there, I think we might be able to move some funds at a later date. So I think that we're on the right track, and I will be supporting it this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Salvatore. Mr. Mancini?
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. I myself, I voted with Mr. Poindexter on a few things here on this budget. I thought the mayor and the administration brought us a pretty good budget. We had to get some streets, and obviously we wish we had a lot more money to do everything that was on there. I think a lot of council feels the same way. I think that Councilman Salvatore said something at one point through this, and I really feel this way, and I'm going to say this right out. We got to move ahead, and it's going to be tough. And I said that last week, and we had to do some things. The administration did some things. We don't want to cut anywhere. And you never want to do that. I don't consider them cuts. I consider them more. We adjusted some monies to some improvements that we desperately need, and I think we're going to work together here. I guess my thesis of all this is it's time to move ahead, and let's move ahead strong. And like Councilman Salvatore said, we've had the wars. It's time to move ahead and be positive. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman, on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mancini. Mr. Orcutt?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to thank the finance director for all of his insight on this. This was my first budget that I was able to partake in, and it is a conundrum when you start thinking about all the numbers, all the departments, and all the money where you have to put it. And the big thing that I actually went into this budget with, and something that he had put in my head, was the 2019 program for the roads, where we were getting money that was earmarked from the county towards these roads, and I think that was important that we did jump on that, and it was something that the mayor had mentioned as well too. So when going through this budget, I had that in mind the whole time. So I never thought that we actually did make any cuts to the police or fire that were going to be detrimental or in any way whatsoever. I think everything that they needed to be essential, the essential tools to perform their job, those were all given to them. I believe there was even some extras that we talked about, and then that was the bulletproof glass. So moving forward, I think we do have to assist those departments in any way that we can, but I did make my decision based on the 2019 road program as well as the 2018 road program. And I think this has been a very good budget process that we had here. It was very efficient, and I want to thank all of my senior members here on council for all of your help. I would like to thank the mayor for putting this budget in front of us, and I'm ready to move forward, as Councilman Mancini said. So thank you all for all of your help. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Orcutt. Mr. Stem.
Thank you, Council President. I want to agree with Councilman Orcutt and Councilman Salvador. You know, the operating budget for police and fire went through fine. Capital, there's tough decisions to be made, but we can't define them as cuts. It's just we balanced it, we rotated some money around, and I think moving forward with the city here, we all worked together on it. We did our due diligence, and I'd like to thank everybody on council and Greg and everybody here.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Salvatore.
Just one quick question through the chair to the finance director. Greg, were you able to get the answer to the 250 fund?
Through the chair, Councilman Salvatore, the auditors were in today. The auditor that I need to speak with was not in though, so I did speak with the two auditors that were here and asked their boss to call me. I have some questions for regarding the special rec fund. So as soon as I get something, I will report it to council.
Okay, hopefully next week we'll know something. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Salvatore. Anyone else? Mr. Orcutt?
Yes, one other question for, through the chair to the finance director. Greg, what was our final number for the Fund 545?
Through the chair to Councilman Orcutt, so the final number for the 2018-2019 street improvement fund, $1,506,500.
For some reason, I had a different number here. I had 1,519,500. I don't know if anybody else has those numbers, but the motions that I remember we made added up to that. Through the chair to Greg, for economic development, what did you have for that, for those numbers?
Through the chair, Councilman Orcutt, $40,000 reduction in economic development.
What was the reduction in service?
The street construction, maintenance, repair line item in the capital, 425, was a reduction of 75,000.
And what was the addition from the rec center?
The rec center was reduced by 25,000. That went into the Fund 545. It's 70,000 reduction from the police. Then went into Fund 545, and then $85,000 reduction in fire that went to Fund 545.
Okay, and then did we get 18,000 from the police vehicles? Was that reduced from 58 to 40,000?
That was, yeah, that was 40,000. 18,000 for the vest and the carrier, 22,000 for the server, and then 40,000 for vehicles.
What was earmarked for the vehicle lease? 58,000 to start?
Yes, 58,000, correct.
And what did we end up appropriating? 40,000?
40,000.
All right, was that additional 18,000 added to that 1,506? 500?
No, because then the vests, initially the vests weren't part of that proposed capital list. So the vests plus the carrier equaled 18,000.
Okay. No other questions on that?
Mr. Salvatore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. But the vests are going to be reimbursed though, right?
Through the chair, Councilman Salvatore, they will be reimbursed, yes.
So that's the 18,000, I think that Councilman Orcutt's talking about. When the reimbursement comes back, that would be earmarked to go into 545. I think that's where the numbers aren't.
The reimbursement will be roughly about 8,000.
8,000?
I don't know if we'll receive that this year or next year.
But it'll still make it for the 2019 roads program.
We could move it over once received into the 2019 program, correct?
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mr. Burgio?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to add also that during this budget process, I was really proud of the way council asked all the important questions and really were sincerely trying to find out how we can best meet the needs of all of our departments and especially our police, and providing them with the 3 vehicles and the bulletproof windshield and the vests and so forth, and just all had to do our best with this budget. But I was proud of the way everybody worked together and asked really good questions, and so I think that was it says a lot about the council and it's working together to try to do the best we can where we're at. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burgio.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Salvatore?
a motion to place on tonight's council agenda.
Support.
There's a motion to place this on tonight's council agenda, properly supported. Discussion on the motion. Mr. Stem?
Thank you, Council President. I just want to make a statement, and I think the Finance Director can
Regarding the motion only, sir.
disregard then.
Thank you. All right. So motion on the floor, properly seconded. Michelle, please call the roll.
Salvatore,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Burgio,
Yes.
Orcutt,
Yes.
Stem,
Yes.
Mancini,
Yes.
Poindexter,
No.
All right.
Mr.
Ordinance.
Chairman. Oh, go
Mr.
ahead.
Salvatore?
I just want to let Councilman Stem know that he can comment on it during the council meeting under adoption of that ordinance if you have something you want to say.
Thank you. So ordinance number 11,017-2018 will be on tonight's council agenda under letter M. Number M3, I'm sorry, 11,023-2018 will be the number assigned to that. Thank you. All right. Moving on to item number 2, ordinance number 11,000-2017, authorizing the consulting engineer to prepare plans and bid documents and the mayor to advertise for bids and enter into a contract for the administration parking lot project and declaring an emergency. This was originally introduced by Mayor Coyne per Council President Vecchio. This was placed on this agenda by motion at the April 24th, 2018 caucus meeting. Mr. Salvatore?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair to the mayor. I really, my intention was just to discuss this evening. I didn't really want to move forward with it. I just thought we'd have an opportunity to ask the mayor if he's had an opportunity to get any current pricing. And I know he clarified for me last week, and maybe a few other councilmen, that what his intent was only to do that grass area between the tennis courts and the new city hall. So that cleared up a few of my questions. But through the chair to the mayor, Mayor, have you looked at this as far as getting updated pricing on this? Have you had the opportunity yet?
As far as the parking lot goes, you're correct, Rick. Where we'd like to put it is between the tennis courts and the new city hall where the grass area is. There has been some possible discussion as far as even moving the parking even more in front. As you know, we'll be moving city hall there. Give or take, we have approximately 24 employees in city hall. And then you have the people coming up to, pay taxes or, for whatever reason that they come up for, and right now, we have 4 spots in front of the old daycare center, which will be the new city hall. So I don't have any new, up-to-date things on the parking lot. However, we could defer to the engineer, but I believe it was somewhere around $120,000, $130,000 in the old proposal. I think the longer we wait, the worse it's going to get. And quite frankly, gentlemen, I mean, we're gonna move the city hall over there. We're gonna need parking places for people to park. The only other alternative is to park over at the water park, which is a pretty good hike in. Plus, in the wintertime, you're gonna have to have somebody make sure that's plowed, kept clean, salted, et cetera. The same thing over at the recreation center. It's also a pretty good walk. So again, we're moving City Hall over there. I think it's in everyone's best interest, as council obviously thought as well a few years back, to have a parking lot at City Hall. If we were had a new building coming into the city, we would definitely ask them an office building, where are your people gonna park? So with that, I think we should go with the parking lot. If I can go through the chair to the engineer to see if he has anything he'd like to bring up on this, as far as pricing.
Mr. Piatek?
With the ordinance and the attachment there, in everybody's packet, there was the estimate that was prepared back in May. So again, that estimate is, approximately a year old. At that point, my plan was to go to bid with this project late last year or early this year. So as far as pricing goes, you may see a little bit of an increase. I'm not sure what the asphalt prices are looking like this year. I haven't seen a whole lot of bid tabulations from asphalt projects at this point, but I think that number is still fairly good. I'd like to take advantage of at least the type of project. I think it's a smaller type project. I think you'll get a wide variety of contractors bidding on it, from some big ones to some small guys. Some guys want to finish out their schedules. So at this point, I don't have any new estimates to inform council on for this work.
Thank you, Mr. Piatek. Mr. Salvatore, you still have the floor on it.
Pardon?
You still have the floor.
Thank you. Well, through the chair to the engineer, so it's safe to assume that you're prepared to hang your hat on these figures from last year? I kind of like the mayor's number a little better than yours.
I know. Am I ready to hang my hat on it? I mean, there's a lot of variables when you're bidding work. This is as good as it's going to get till we go out to bid. So I would anticipate my engineer's estimate to be, when we advertise this project, to be somewhere around $145,000 to $150,000. Unless through the design process, we discover that there's some additional sewer work that needs to be done. If there's some other utility relocation, I know there's a fiber optic cable that runs through that area that I didn't account for in this estimate. And with the council or city hall being relocated over to the rec center, I don't know that fiber optic cable is going to be an issue. But this is an estimate that was prepared based on some concept drawings, and I'll have a detailed estimate once the design process is complete.
Okay, and if I could, Mr. Chairman, through the chair to the mayor. Mayor, are you looking to get City Hall comfortably moved in and then take a look at this, or are you looking to move forward right away?
It's going to be a very big job, Rick, moving City Hall over there, with the cables, the phones, the computer. And I think you don't be well enough to know I like to take my time with things and get it right. So my suggestion would be, let's get over there, let's look at it, let's figure out what's what before we expend the funds. I think a parking lot over there is definitely needed, without question. But I think it would be better if we went over there, if we looked at it for a bit, and then decided, well, what is it we really need to do?
Okay. Mr. Chairman,
Continue.
based on those comments, I would make a motion to place back in committee.
Let me finish up going around real quick with these guys. Mr. Mancini?
Thank you, Mr. Council President. Mayor, I agree. I had a good talk today with Councilman Scott on this. I think maybe he had mentioned about the green space, and he's absolutely right. My feeling on it is, being over there a lot, when you go to most municipalities or public places, you do have some parking space. Yesterday I was here, I did that little thing with out in front here with the TV station, and the people that were coming in for the grass, most of them had to get dropped off right up in the front by either a family member, do I stand corrected on that? Right up in front. I mean, it was not even, it didn't even get to the parking spaces. And I kind of think of, I always use that term, and I'll probably go back to this when I go to my Veterans Purple Heart, and I remember an elderly gentleman at a busy basketball Saturday about 4 years ago. He had to walk from the paper bins all the way to the locker room, and he made that nice little comment that, Jim, it's almost a quarter mile. We don't want him walking that far. I mean, it's a long way to go. You know, you have them, we'll have events at the rec center also during the day, whatever the senior thing, the Zumbas or whatever might be possibly going on there. And, you know, I don't know where we'll park them. If we don't have, you know, ample space over there, just to say 4 spaces, I mean, that's probably 1/10 of the employees maybe, and I might even be low on that figure. But I think it's something I like. I like the idea about us going over there, taking a serious look, because I think this is a little more serious than maybe we think. And we definitely don't want to be making a mistake on this. We're 2 to 4, 10 years down the road, like, boy, maybe we should have put a little more space here. Just my thoughts. So I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Mancini. Mr. Scott?
Yeah, I'll be real quick on this. Through the chair to Ed, do we have an idea on that site we have now, how many parking spaces that design is for?
The concept that was laid out last year, I think I had 14 spaces. And then there was some proposed modifications to that existing island over there to maybe add 2 more to the ones in front there in that little island. So a total of like 16, I think.
Through the chair again. Have we looked at any other alternatives out there, other than just using that one spot there? Have we looked at using in front of the building over there? Just, you know, is there a way to maximize the space over there to maybe put them over there instead of taking away that green space?
I could look at it again, but I don't think that there's room to do anything but add the spaces
Well, like I said,
to where we're at. I don't think that there's a whole lot of other options.
well, I do agree we do need a parking there. I voted for it last year, and I do agree with the mayor that we should wait until we get over there to take an honest look at it. But I was just wondering if we had a little bit of time to take another look at it, see if, that is the best possible layout over there.
Certainly.
Okay, thanks. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Mr. Stem?
I'll support Councilman Salvador's motion.
First of all, gentlemen, this has already been adopted, so this is not in a committee. This ordinance was adopted in September of last year.
Mr. Chairman, but there was no action taken on this. I'm assuming we're going to have to update it and pass it again and start all over. So it would be appropriate probably to at least put the topic back into a committee so that we bring it out fresh when we get the new pricing if we're going to do it.
Council could make a motion to put this into a committee.
The engineer's
for-
got his hand up. He may be able to shed some light
Mr.
on
Piatek?
this.
If I may, I mean, this ordinance was adopted in May, so I don't see, I mean, the way I see it, we have the green light to move forward with the project if the mayor decides to.
That would honestly be correct. Mayor?
If I may suggest, council, perhaps a motion that was discussed, we will look at it, and again, we're going to proceed slowly. We want to make sure we get it right, to Councilman Stem's point and Mancini's. See what we really have to get there. The last thing I want to do is put in a parking lot and have to come back here 6 months from now and say, hey, guys, we need more spaces.
Thank you, Mayor. With that suggestion, I would suggest to put this to a future agenda under discussion. Council? Go ahead, Mr. Poindexter.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think what we should do is just, take a vote that it was discussed and then bring forward amendment to the ordinance. I think you have to amend it.
if there's going to be a proposed change, there would be the need for an amendment.
Yeah.
So again, here we are with discussion. I mean, you can assign it to a committee and pull it for discussion. You can assign it at a later date to another agenda. That's up to council. Mr. Stem.
Thank you, Council President. Then I'll retract my motion to support.
I would send my motion, make a motion that it was discussed.
Hey, do we get a vote on that?
No.
Okay.
not the
All
vote.
right, then I'll make a motion.
He's made a motion that this was discussed.
I'll make a motion it was discussed, and we could,
He's already made the motion that it was discussed. If you want to second his motion,
I'll second that, and we could put it to the, maybe the May 22nd caucus meeting, we could have a full,
we're talking out, it's even gonna be longer till they're moved into there. My suggestion would be at a later point than that even.
no problem. Okay,
Mr.
I'll
Salvatore?
second.
Yeah,
I'll
perfect.
second.
Just to answer Councilman Mancini's question, we're gonna make a motion to discuss, which we did this evening, and we can always put it back on the agenda for discussion later,
Right.
moving forward as more information comes before us.
Exactly. All right, so there's a motion on the floor that this was discussed, properly seconded. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, Michelle, please call the roll.
Salvatore,
Yes.
Mancini,
Yes.
Poindexter,
Yes.
Stem,
Yes.
Orcutt,
Yes.
Bergio,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Motion is approved 7-0. Moving to item 3, a resolution proclaiming June 9th, 2018 as Global Wellness Day in the city of Brook Park and declaring an emergency, introduced by Councilman Orcutt per Council President Vecchio.
Chairman,
Mr. Salvatore?
a motion to place on tonight's council agenda.
Support.
There's a motion to place this on tonight's council agenda, properly supported. Discussion? Mayor?
Thank you. I discussed this with Councilman Orcutt, and as a matter of fact, I'll be meeting with the councilman tomorrow on this. The only problem I have is with section 1, where it talks about the run. And Marlene, finally, from the residents of the city of Brook Park, thank you very much for all that you've done. And my wife Shirley, who played volleyball with you many years ago, said you were the best volleyball player there. When it came to getting up to the net and spiking that ball, Marlene Schwinn was the best.
Well, when you're
So-
5'10", it's a lot easier.
But again, thank you very
Thank
much.
you
And
so
Mr.
much.
Chairman, I think the committee made an excellent selection.
Oh,
Thank you.
without doubt.
Thank you, bye. Sure. Well, all I want to say is it was a pleasure to be coaching so many girls and women, and I hope that I made a good example for them, that winning isn't everything, and it's how you play the game. So I thank all the girls. I mean, we were like family. I mean, I've gone to their weddings and baby christenings. It was a wonderful time for me. Thank you so much. I appreciate this. I really do.
See you on Thursday.
Ms. Schwinn, before you go, I would personally like to thank you for all that you have done for all the women and everything in this city. I'd also like to thank everybody that was on the Citizen of the Year committee for their due diligence in choosing such an outstanding person. Obviously, everybody sees the loyalty that she has had throughout the years and continued loyalty that I'm sure she'll have for many years to come. The city of Brook Park is proud to have someone like you. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Mr. Salvatore?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Marlene, it seems like only yesterday, you used to draw large crowds to watch your softball team play. I mean, we had a hard time finding a place to park, finding a place to sit when you had the Kelowna, Rocco J. Kelowna team, the black and yellow, exciting team to watch. You were an outstanding citizen. I never thought that when I brought that forward, Citizen of the Year, that someday we'd be looking at you. I'd be sitting here looking at you. You are one of the most well-deserving individuals to receive this honor. And I'm glad that the committee, Richard Scott and the rest of them, picked you. And you are going to be a fine representative as Citizen of the Year. And you'll be at the front of the parade this year, representing the city of Brook Park.
Thank you.
Congratulations. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Salvatore. Mr. Bergio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, the committee did such a great job. I know they worked really hard. So congratulations to the committee. And the choices they made couldn't have been a better choice. I've known Marlene for a long time and so deserving of that. So I'm really glad that they made that choice. Again, congratulations, Marlene. And thanks for all that you've done for the year, throughout the years. Really appreciate it. You're what makes our community a great, outstanding community because you give and so many others give. And you've given those girls a lot, and I think that that's made them better citizens too. So thank you for all you do.
Thank
That's all I have,
Mr.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Poindexter.
Thank you, Council President. Mr. Swin, I want to say thank you congratulations and thank you for your service to this community. I've never had the opportunity to witness any of these acts, but I have met your son and your granddaughter on numerous occasions, and they also are, the way they are, they're a testament to your goodwill and your humanity, because they're both very outstanding people, and you should be very proud of that, and thank you for your service to this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Poindexter. Mr. Scott.
And real quick, again, you're going to be there Thursday, Marilyn, right? You got the Best of Brook Park dinner. You're going to get awarded again. I'd like to thank the Citizen of the Year Committee. They did an outstanding job. I'd like to name them if you don't mind real quick. We have Kelly Versick, Levine Cates, Susan Booker, Jim Chornak, Bill Shepard, Dan Eberhardt, Bill Daly, and Tom DeFore. They did an outstanding job, and I tell you, Marlene, they worked hard. They honestly discussed it, and it went really smooth. And again, thank you for everything you've done. That's
Thank
all
you
I got.
again, everyone. All right, moving on. We'll go back to letter G, introductions of resolutions of commendation. First item is proclamation honoring the 2018 7th through 9th grade co-ed basketball league champion Cavs. Michelle?
Will the team please step forward? No? Okay. Whereas the team is to be congratulated for their outstanding season, and whereas the team and coaches are worthy of recognition for their efforts. Now therefore, I, Michael D. Gamella, Mayor of the City of Brook Park, do hereby call upon the citizens of this community to acknowledge and extend congratulations to the team on behalf of the administration, City Council, and City Council of the City of Brook Park. When your name is called, please approach the mayor. Coaches, when your name is called, please approach the mayor. Justin DeWalt. Joey Diak. Nick Dulach. Damon Duman. Elijah Franklin. Isaiah Franklin. Anthony Libator. Kevin McDonough. Justin Saporito. Nathan Seebeck. Zachary Strichko. Head coach David Dunnigan. Assistant coach Teresa Dunnigan.
Congratulations, everyone. Moving to number 2, proclamation honoring the 2018 10th through 12th grade boys basketball league champion Cavs.
Will the team please step forward along with the coaches? Whereas the team is to be congratulated for their outstanding season, and whereas the team and coaches are worthy of recognition for their efforts. Now therefore, I, Michael D. Gamella, Mayor of the City of Brook Park, do hereby call upon the citizens of this community to acknowledge and extend congratulations to the team and coaches on behalf of the administration and City Council of the City of Brook Park. When your name is called, please approach the mayor. Bryce Agnew, Noah Demeter, Ryan Duplega, Brogan Fisher, Ryan Herman, Kendall Gerald Jr., Jackson Leggins, Matt Osborne, Mariah Smith, Saeed Wadden, Elijah Wood, head coach Angelo Carmaga, assistant coach Ed Orcutt.
Congratulations, Cavs. All right, at this time, council, I will entertain a motion to go back to the regular order of business.
So made, Mr. Chairman.
Support.
Motion made, properly supported. Michelle, please call the roll.
Salvatore,
Yes.
Bergio,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Orcutt,
Yes.
Stem,
Yes.
Mancini,
Yes.
Poindexter.
Yes.
Motion is approved. We're back to the regular order of business. We're on item, or letter D, reports of standing committees. Aviation and Environmental, Councilman Poindexter.
Thank you, Council President. The Aviation and Environmental Committee has nothing on today's agenda. However, I would just like to make a comment to the residents, especially those living over near the airport. Councilman Stem has been contacted about concerns of low-flying aircraft and another concern of the wind tunnel over at NASA, noise issues. And I'd just like to let the residents know that when documenting this, we need to know time and date of the incident so they can kind of narrow down who made the noise and what the issue was, so they can kind of remedy the problem. And that's all I have, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Poindexter. Moving to the Finance Committee, Chairman Scott.
The Board of, the Board of Controls met today, and there are 27 items that were approved, and I have nothing on the agenda for legislation. Thank you.
Thank you. Legislative Committee. Mr. Mancini.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll have one piece on the first reading tonight. That'll be an ordinance. That'll be the texting while driving. And then when we go back to our caucus meeting, I will have a legislative piece there, veterans parking. If anybody needs anything out of the committee, please let me know. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mancini. Parks and Recreation Committee, Councilman Salvatore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Rec Commission did meet. It was a very short meeting. They basically, we just talked a little bit about the new rental rates that the director's working on. I'm sure he'll be bringing that forward within the next couple of weeks. And we did talk a little bit about possibly looking at some areas within the Recreation Department and some land that may be around parks and playgrounds that might be suitable to take another look at the dog park. But what did come up in our conversation is to maybe look at the area of city-owned land in front of the service garage. So when those minutes become available, we'll be able to sit down with the mayor and talk to the mayor about taking a good hard look at that. But other than that, Mr. Chairman, that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Salvatore. Planning Committee, Councilman Bergio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Planning Commission has not had a meeting since my last report. Our next meeting will be Monday, May 7th, and that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Bergio. Safety Committee, Councilman Stem.
Thing you, Council President. I have a few things here on my report. First of all, last Monday was the Human Trafficking Course seminar through the Neighborhood Watch. It was very good turnout and a great discussion. I'd like to thank the panel for presenting that. Their next meeting for Neighborhood Watch is May 21st, 7 p.m. at the library. And the flyers are out now for a town hall meeting Thursday, May 17th, 6:30 at the rec center for mental health and addiction. They're gonna have clinical speakers. Judge Russo and the police department are gonna speak. I encourage everybody to go to that. And finally, May 13th through May 19th is National Police Week. If you have an opportunity to support our police during that week, I encourage you to do so. If you have a family member or a friend in law enforcement, it's a good opportunity to reflect and think about the sacrifices that the police officers make every day. And finally, I'd like to thank Chief Foster and his staff for everything they do here in Brook Park. That ends my report.
Thank you, Mr. Stem. Service Committee, Councilman Orcutt.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. There's three things today. The Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District is conducting sewer system evaluation studies of the local sewer system across the sewer district service area. These studies will identify sewer capacity limitations and assess the southwest interceptor area, which includes Brook Park sewer infrastructure condition. Just a note for all the residents, you may be seeing some of the field workers out there. The field evaluation studies will include the manhole inspections, smoke tests, dyed water, connectivity tracing, and later in 2019, the installment of flow monitors. This study is approximately $13 million study and is scheduled for over the next 36 months. So you may be seeing people time to time in the neighborhood doing these. This will it started in March 2018 and it'll go through March of 2021. Over 21 streets, including the Hummel Road Pump Station, will be included in the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer System Evaluation Study here in Brook Park. Second thing is a reminder to all the residents, bulk pickup will occur on the second Monday of each month. Next bulk pickup is scheduled for Monday, May 14th. Call before noon, Friday, May 11th, to be placed on the list. And then if you live in the Fairlawn area, you wanna listen to this. This week I had an opportunity to meet with a representative from Dominion Ohio Gas, Mr. Mitchell, and he's the operations supervisor. We met over at Elm and Smith Road at the Natural Gas Distribution Center over there. Our topic of discussion was pressure relief valves and their operation at the distribution center. Mr. Mitchell informed me that upgrades to the pressure relief system serving the high pressure line are scheduled to start within the next 3 to 5 months. The upgrade is a part of Dominion East Ohio's GREEN program. This upgrade will reduce the amount of natural gas that is purged to regulate the consistent pressure for the high pressure lines that serve our commercial businesses. That's all I have. That finishes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Orcutt. Board of Zoning Appeals, Chairman Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Board of Zoning has not met since our last report. We are meeting Monday, May 7th, May 7th, and there is one item on the agenda. So there's nothing other than Monday, May 7th, we have a meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Moving on to letter E, reports of special committees, Southwest General Health Center, trustee Mr. Salvatore.
Thanks again, Mr. Chairman. Southwest General is pleased to announce the partnership with Apple, along with our technology partner, Cerner Healthcare, to ensure our patients to view their medical records through the Apple Health. All patients who have set up a Southwest General patient portal are eligible to begin viewing their medical records through the Apple Health app. Southwest is one of the only healthcare providers participating in this partnership from all over the Northeast Ohio area. As you can see, we are at the cutting edge of technology once again. And our first-year employee turnover rate continues to be right on target. We're planning for the celebration of both Nurses Week and Hospital Week in the month of May. And then there'll be more forthcoming as we move forward on that. I'll keep council informed. Patient experience feedback continues to be positive, and we're definitely on our hitting our target goals. Recognition took place recently with over 550 volunteers who have given back over 82,000 hours of service. So a big thank you goes out to all of our volunteers. And representatives from Southwest recently attended 2 community events in which residents were recognized for their service, one being the Bria Grindstone Awards Banquet, and the second being the Middleburg Heights Salute to the City. And Southwest nominated my good friend and colleague from the Systems Board, Eileen Harold, and she was recognized for being an outstanding citizen for her service and all of her help on the hospital board. So congratulations to Eileen Harold. The Old Oak Run was very successful once again, with more than 500 participants joining Southwest for the annual 5K race and the 1-mile walk. And this year marked the 37th year for this event. And during the financial portion of our meeting, we approved under the capital request for the replacement and upgrade of the cardiac catheterization system, which is in Lab 2. And finally, Mr. Chairman, I will be having a meeting of my own committee, the nominating committee, which will be towards the middle of this month. And as I come up with the results of that meeting, I will be reporting back to council. Other than that, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Salvatore. Berea Board of Education Committee. Mrs. McDonald?
Good evening, everyone. Ooh, I'm taking this off the thing here. Yesterday at the board meeting, it was proudly announced that we have a new principal for Berea Mid Park Middle School. His name is Nick DeSenza, and he will be coming to us from Parma City Schools. He will be the principal over the entire building, and then there will be vice principals for all of the different grades that will be there starting next 2018-2019 school year. Last week, there were 3 community forums describing how the construction in all the different buildings have been going. All of that information can be seen on the website. On the slides themselves were a lot of Q&A, and a lot of the questions concerning bathrooms, lockers, etc. were all there. So I encourage you to go to the website and check out those presentations. There's also updates as far as what construction has been accomplished and what's continuing. We should give everyone at all of the schools, students, staff, construction workers, a lot of credit. It has been a lot of patience having to be demonstrated as far as things being changed. I know at the junior high themselves, some days they come in and they've been moved to a different classroom so they can do work in a classroom, then they're moved back and forth. So construction is never easy or clean, but it's gonna be very, very exciting when everything is accomplished. As of right now, June 1st will be the groundbreaking for the new high school. Couple of announcements. The incoming 5th, 6th, and 7th grade orientation dates are coming up. Thursday, May 10th, you have your current grade 5 who are going into 6th grade, as well as your current grade 6 going into 7th grade. Those will be held at the middle school, which is the junior high, at 7:30. Incoming grade 5, so your current 4th graders, will be Wednesday, May 16th at 7:30 as well. Please note that chime has changed because Polaris's incoming 11th graders orientation is also May 10th. So if you have students in both buildings, they changed the time so that you can be accommodating for that as well. And lastly, we are holding our first youth mental health first aid training for the community members. City of Brook Park is hosting at the library this coming May 5th, as well as May 12th. There is still openings if you're interested. It will be from 9 to 1, and lunch will be provided. After the second Saturday, you will be officially trained as youth mental health first aiders. It is a program that is going to teach you about mental health awareness for our youth, as well as some warning signs of when you can help children in our community find the resources they need to stay safe. And that ends my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. McDonald. Mr. Poindexter, anything to add?
No, she covered everything, thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Salvatore?
Thank you, Chairman. Before you leave the podium, I have a question for you.
You didn't get too far away, it's okay.
Now that you're back, I forgot what I was going to answer. The gentleman that is going to be the new principal, you said he came from Parma City Schools?
Yes.
As a teacher or as a product of the system?
Actually, as both. He was originally a teacher, and then he was the intern principal for Hillside, and then he actually was the principal at Shiloh. So he has teaching experience as well as administration experience. Shiloh, just in case you don't know, is a middle school. So he left a building similar to what he's walking into.
So he went through the Parma school system as a student as well?
That I am not 100% sure
The name sounds
of.
familiar. I thought maybe he might have gone through Mid-Park, but if you could check that out, I'd be
I will
interested in knowing.
Totally check that out.
Okay, thank you
yes.
very much. It was a good report.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Salvatore. Thank you, Ms. McDonald. Moving on to letter F, reports of boards and commissions. We have none this evening. Letter G has already been covered. Moving on to letter H, reports and communications from the mayor. Mayor Gamella.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. As you know, all the municipal buildings will be moving into the recreation center in the next couple of months. The furniture is currently in at City Hall. We hope to start the migration over there within the next 2 weeks. Everybody at City Hall is packing their boxes. So 2 weeks from now, if you come to City Hall and the doors are locked, we haven't gone out of business, we're over at the recreation center and the old daycare center. Council talked earlier today about putting a parking lot over there, and I think we need one, but I think it's very prudent that we take our time doing it, make sure how the parking lot's configured and things of that nature. So that's what we're going to do. The biggest problem is, of course, as always, your cable, fiber optics, your computer, your phones, and we're working on that diligently. So again, we look for that migration to go over. We'll probably start my office in 2 to 3 weeks, and then tax and finance will follow. Also, I have been in touch again, as quite often I am, with Ford Land, talking with them about the Ford property and the lake trail. I've had some discussions with people about that. I would like to enhance the lake trail to come in over to us, over to Plant Lane. And there'll be some further discussion of that as well. We met with the people today with the Abrams Creek watershed and the Big Creek watershed. The area we always call the Kalita Ditch is actually Kalita Creek, and it's part of the Big Creek watershed. So I never understood how Brook Park fit into Big Creek, but we have Kalita Creek, which goes into the little creek, and then it goes over to the Big Creek. So that's how all that flows. So also, I'll be at a meeting on Thursday with the sewer district with our service director, and we'll be over there. We'll be talking, and any flooding issues we have in the city, we're going to try to address as much as we possibly can. And with all that, finally, the pool area. As you know, we're rehabbing the recreation center. I would like to reopen the pool. It's only going to be $500,000, give or take, to put a roof on the pool. The problem is the walls around the pool, because when it was built initially back in the 70s, they never put a vapor barrier in it. So what's happening is those bricks and that concrete around the bricks, the mortar, is starting to actually come apart, and it's creating an unsafe situation. So irregardless of what we do with the pool, whether we reopen it or whether we make it a community room or an indoor soccer field, those walls are going to have to be addressed, and I think it's going to be an issue we have to look at. And a third option, of course, is just to leave it decay, and I don't think that's an option at all, and I don't think anyone up here thinks it's an option at all. The recreation center is a big investment for this community. We put $5.2 million into it. Just recently, back in the 90s, I think we put around $6 or $7 million into it. So we have to keep it up, and we have to make certain not only is it clean and functional, but that it's safe. So with that, Mr. Chairman, we're going to continue on. We're going to be looking at those walls. We have an outside firm coming in to let us know the extent of the damage, and I'll report to council later on at that point. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Question? Mr. Poindexter.
Thank you, Council President. Through the chair to the mayor. Mayor, the the walls that are, the mortar and stuff is breaking apart and decaying. Those walls are shared by the new locker rooms that are renovated. Can you give us any insight, or do you know if there's any potential damage to the newly renovated locker room area because of the condition of those walls?
As of right now, there is not, but just like any time, whenever you take down a wall or brick, you find things behind it. So hopefully we're keeping our fingers crossed that there won't be any major issues that we have to address.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Poindexter. Mr. Salvatore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm glad you're bringing that forward, Mayor. I think it's important that we keep the situation with the pool and the walls in the forefront and continue to talk about it. And I'd also like to keep the lateral transfer in front of us and just get an update on that if you had any chance to have any meetings relative to that. And I know you mentioned you were going to invite me, so I'm eagerly awaiting to discuss anything with you. I just found out that 2 more cities just got on board and are heading in that direction, and it appears as if that's going to be the new wave of hiring, at least for the short term anyway. So I just would like to, if you had any chance to talk about it, and if we are going to have any meetings on it, I'll make myself available. Thank you.
Rick, to answer your question, we had discussed it because you and I had discussed it at a lunch one day. And I did bring it up to the chiefs. We discussed it at length. And the issue is when you do a lateral transfer, you're essentially getting a more experienced officer, but you're getting an older officer. And what we want to do is make our force to try to get younger. That's still something that we are looking at. Since we've had a discussion here openly, we have not had a meeting on lateral transfers, but when we do, I will certainly invite you. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mancini.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair to the mayor, yesterday you just finished your 4th month, and I believe you're at some point soon enough here, you'll be given a little state of the mayor. I'd like to ask you your highlights and lowlights, but I'll let you save it for that. But I do concur with you, and I do concur with a lot of our departments. We do got to get a little bit younger. There's no doubt about it. I know the ages of a lot, and it's slowly in the past 10, 15, 20 years has moved up there very much. It's definitely got to get a little younger. Mayor, when we talk about the pool, how are we still discussing things of sort as, and I know we went through this 100 times through the budget, but are we still discussing streets? I mean, is there still discussion on that? What we could possibly do as the year goes on? Any extra monies might come up, anything of that sort on any sales we have, any revenue on our streets? I know it's redundant, and I know, but I mean, as I'm out there, that's probably by all means. And I just got off of Dare Court a little bit before I got here, and I did see it. And obviously, like most of our streets, work needs to be done. And I just want to know have you been getting the phone calls? What is your thoughts on that? I mean, because I believe that's right now almost priority number 1. I know we beat it up during the budget, and almost to the point we got tired of hearing of it, but it just seems to me it hasn't ended yet. So,
Well, as I stated earlier, I believe we could put $45 million in the streets. I wish we had it to put in. The simple mathematics is we don't have it. In 2013, 2014, budgets were passed for the road project, $400,000 for streets, $500,000 for streets. But we have a lot of streets. You look down the list, a lot of our streets were built in the 50s, the 60s, so they're older streets. We're doing the best we can to keep up with them. When you compare it to other communities, we're certainly in far better shape than a lot of the surrounding communities. It was a very hard winter. This time of year, they tend to even look worse because you have the potholes and everything before you can get them filled, things of that nature. So, but we are continually looking at the streets. As you know, we have a very aggressive road program next year. We're going to be putting $5 million in the streets next year. And a good part of that is going to come from grants and things of that nature. And I appreciate council grasping that situation and saying, Mayor, you're right, we've got to go after this. And that's the Smith Road project from Hummel down to Elm. That'll also be the Sheldon Road project. And that will also be the Howland Road project from Engel over to Fry. So those are 3 huge projects. And again, total cost $5 million. It's going to cost the city about $2.7 million, I believe it is. So again, we're very aggressive on the streets, but we have to be prudent with the money that we have. We have to move forward, and we're going to do that. I think the biggest thing we need in this community is more revenue from jobs coming in, job creation. And that's why I keep talking about the Ford parcel being so important. That is the biggest opportunity we have for the future of this community. And that's why I constantly work on it diligently. And I really think that's one reason the voters of this community elected me, because they understood that I have a good understanding of Ford, their system, and most importantly, the people up in Detroit who make the decisions. They know me personally. I'm able to pick up the phone and call people. So we're going to stay on it. And one day I hope to bring you guys something that it's going to be great.
Okay, yeah, I know we absolutely have a city to run. There is no doubt about it. We can't avoid that, and we won't avoid that. And I think we've been doing a pretty good job of it. And I do agree with you with the revenue. That's one place we definitely have to go. Our city's gotten older. A lot of people put a lot of money in their homes. But I do know a good street makes a bad house look good and a good house look great. And, a lot of suggestions we get one here, and I was just marking through it to a resident coming up, and, okay, we're not going to spend money for that, but then the next idea is spending more money. So I get what you're saying when you say that we need a lot of money for our roads. No matter how we do it, it's going to cost us. I know people, they understand that, but again, it's the money situation. So I'm glad you brought that out. I appreciate that. Thank you.
And Jim, to emphasize your point, and the engineer will even say, preventive maintenance is absolutely critical. The crack sealing program is really important to keep these roads up. You've got to take care of an issue before it becomes a problem. So anything you see out there, give me a call or call the engineer, and we'll try to get on it as quick as we can for you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for that. That's all right, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Orcutt.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mayor, you did mention that you met with the Ford land people. Did they mention anything about the construction management trailers that are over on their property? I know Mr. Adams had spoke last week, and we didn't have any answers about it then. Did we get anything about what they might be doing over there?
I didn't meet with Ford Land yesterday. I spoke with them on the telephone. And as far as the trailers over there, they're looking at the property, they're looking at the condition of the pavement, they're looking at whatever possible environmental impact they may have. They're studying it, and frankly, all I can say is that's a good thing.
Okay, great. You talked about, well, there's a few things that are going on in Ward 3, in my ward over there, that are a bit of concerns. Obviously, some of the issues being blight. We've talked about those with some of the businesses around, and those are some things that we definitely have to address, and I hope we do it in the near future. But you mentioned that you're going to be meeting, I think you said Thursday, with Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District. Was there a subject matter that you guys were going to talk about? Was it about maintenance on some of those ditches?
No. I discussed the maintenance issue, as a matter of fact, today on the Kalita Creek. We call it the Kalita Ditch. They call it the Kalita Creek. And also the ditch, which is behind Middlebrook along the tracks between Howland Road, that also flows into the Kalita Creek. And we're trying to stretch that as far as the Kalita Creek project, where the watershed could probably help us out and do something there. No, the meeting tomorrow will just be about the sewers in general throughout Cuyahoga County. But the nice thing about a meeting like that, Ed, is you've got all the players right there in a room with you, and you can have sidebar meetings. Say, we're having this problem here, what can you do to help us? It's all about forging relationships and knowing the right people to call and pick up the phone.
That's good, because those are the things, I guess we're all connected, one way or another. We're all connected, and I see how we're moving forward, and I just wanted to mention that through the service department, we've been doing a lot of maintenance in Ward 3 on those catch basins, and it seems to be working, because the reports that are coming back is that they're not seeing the water in the basements during those heavy rains. So I appreciate anything that we can get out of that meeting, so thank you very much. That's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Orcutt.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, and you're right, Ed, and it all comes from preventive maintenance, making sure those lines are clean, making sure those catch basins are clean. It all makes a difference, and even a street sweeper, it's not there to look pretty, it's to stop the things from going in that catch basin and plugging stuff up.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions for the mayor? Mr. Bergio?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Getting back to the rec center, the walls, You partially answered my question, Mayor, because you're still meeting with them to find out, to assess how much damage is there and what their cost is going to be. I'm sure you don't have that.
That's correct, Carl. We met yesterday, and the gentleman came out, and wasn't good news, as far as what he'd like to do is take some core samplings of the walls to actually take out, a core sample and to see what the extent of the damage is before he can give us a better estimate.
Is that just the pool area, that wall there only?
It's
Or is
all,
it
it's all three walls.
all three walls?
Yes, sir, all
So it's
three
not-
walls.
So the deterioration isn't due to the chemicals in the pool over all those years necessarily, or is it?
No, I think it is, because again, you didn't have that vapor lock there.
Yeah.
And so, and it's even really four walls if you consider the outside wall as well, which a lot of that is glass, but it's the whole area. And it's something that we're gonna have to look at and address one way or another.
Definitely agree. And as far as the roads too, I see that the crews are out and they're doing a great job. They're all over the place and they have their hands full of all the potholes that we have. So I see them working, and they're making the effort to at least patch the holes, to make them passable until we get some funding coming in, and that would be great. But they do a great job, and I see them out working diligently. So my hat's off to all the guys that are working.
And again, Councilman, any city you drive through, you're gonna see potholes. I don't care how rich they are, wealthy they are. They've had all winter to form. So right now, we're just at the point of attack where we can start going after them.
And you're right, Mayor. All over Northeast Ohio, the roads are bad, just about all over. So ours aren't the only roads that are bad. It's not an excuse not to get them fixed, but all of a good portion of Ohio are dealing with the same things that we're doing because the winters and the heaving of the warm and cold air, like over the period of years, especially the winter, how brutal it is. It does take the toll on our roads here. So if we can get some money from the feds or some grants or something like that, that would be great in the future. Hopefully we will. And plus the economic development that you're working towards getting with Scott Adams, meeting with people. So if we can get more funding, that would be great. We do need some roads to be reconstruction, basically. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burgio. Mr. Stem.
Thank you, Council President. Through the chair to the mayor, with the questions about the pool that keep coming from the residents to us, can the city explore options with the partnership with Middleburg or Berea or the old Omni, any facility that has a pool for members, to possibly swim there? I don't know what kind of financial numbers that I'll throw at the city, what the other departments would agree to, but at least that way we could see the interest level and we could temporarily solve some of the needs for the swimmers.
We can do that, and a lot of our swimmers have migrated over to Berea, over to Fairview Park, or over to Middleburg Heights. But it's just, I can't stress enough, it's just not a pool problem. It's a structural problem with the roof and the walls. And it's gonna have to be addressed, because now we have council there, we've got City Hall there, we've got the recreation center there. So I'm telling you that this has to be addressed. And at the proper time, I'll have people there come before council, so you can ask questions, engineers, things of that nature, so we can make an informed decision on which is the best way to go.
Thank you. I agree this also has to be addressed, but to better serve the residents right now, can we look into that? Maybe Mr. Elliott can reach out and
Well,
see what
again,
options we
Councilman,
have.
a lot of our swimmers have already gone elsewhere. They've already gone elsewhere.
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stem. Seeing no one else, I'll conclude with the mayor myself. Mayor, I've got a couple questions. And regarding the pool area, I mean, we've talked, we obviously know the roof, and we know that the walls have issues. Have we, and these amounts are adding up dramatically, have we also looked at the pools themselves and seen what needs to be done to those, the mechanicals, along with any grouting or tiles or anything else that are taking place in there? And if so, what the cost is or may be?
The pools themselves, Michael, are in relatively good shape, but you really don't know, just like the whirlpools. They look fine until you fire them up, and that tells the story. So I think it's going to be a one step at a time procedure. The last thing we want to do is rush it, and we just want to take our time, do it right, and that's what we're going to do.
Thank you. And in addition, I know that when we were in there for a meeting, a citywide meeting, there was noticeable mold, which, I mean, obviously the remediation of mold is is a pretty consuming effort, along with, can be costly, especially for the amount that's in there. Has that been looked at?
Absolutely, and that's part of that vapor area problem.
All right,
A
so,
lot of it really isn't mold, a lot of it is staining, but I'm certain I'm not a mold expert, I'm certain there's some mold there. However, that can be addressed, and when I have him come before council to make a report, you could ask him.
great. And then, last but not least is, are the whirlpools now complete? And if so, I mean, what was our final tallied cost?
No, the whirlpools are not complete, and they will be shortly. We talked about it today in our staff meeting. You know, there's some parts issues, and again, the whirlpools look great till we fired them up. And there were some issues, we're addressing those issues, and as soon as I get the final cost, I will get it to you, and I'll let you know when whirlpools will open. Unfortunately, the Recreation Director, Mark Elliott, could not make it this evening, he's properly excused. So if you'd like, I'll have him call you tomorrow, or I'll call you with an answer.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Quick.
Mr. Scott?
Yeah, to the mayor, you said you had a estimate come back already for 500,000 on the initial cost on the roof repair itself?
That's correct. It'd be about 5 to 575. What we're looking at is maybe, and some of you had suggested this, by the way, lowering the roof of the pool, bringing it down. However, that could end up being more costly than fixing the roof. So we're looking at everything that we can here, and again, it's not becoming so much as a roof issue as it's becoming a structural issue.
Now, my question was because we had an estimate done back in October, and it was 810,000 for the pool roof itself, and it's like a $300,000 difference. That's quite a large drop. I just wonder if there's anything that is different. You know, I don't see where it could be a $300,000 difference. That's a huge difference.
Well, I don't either. It was a reputable company, Rich, that we had looked at it, and he gave his recommendation. So, and what I could do is, I'll furnish you the breakdown. I have it in my office, and you can take a look at it.
I think all of council got the breakdowns from the last.
Council, would you like to see a breakdown of that?
We got it
I'll make
from-
sure it's in your box tomorrow.
Please, thank you.
You're welcome. And again, this is just an estimate. No action's been taken on it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. All right, moving on. Moving to letter I, reports and communications from departments, commissions, and other public officials. We'll start with the engineer, Mr. Piatek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick update on projects from last year. Sylvia, between Fry and Smith, contractor was over there starting today, planting trees. He did not finish. He'll be back out, I believe, tomorrow, planting trees, at which point they'll be starting the tree lawn work, putting in some topsoil and doing the seeding and mulching. After that, they'll follow up over on the section of Fry that was completed last year, Middlebrook and Calvin, and take a look at Brookdale too for areas of landscaping that didn't necessarily take over the winter. Last week, we finished out crack fill material that we didn't use last year because of we ran out of good weather to do the crack fill installation. We placed material over on Forest View, and we placed the balance of the material over on Angle Road out here in front of City Hall. So that quantity on that project was finished out. Lastly, Councilman Orcutt stole my thunder on the sewer district study. Excellent report, Ed. So that's all I have this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Piatek. Moving to the service director, Mr. Garner.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, working on things related to Memorial Day, working on our parks, cutting our grass, hanging some banners, flags, miscellaneous items. We're working on Snow Road, the interchange there, putting in some pots through a project with the mayor. Through the first 4 months of the service department, you know, instead of going week to week here, just a few things we've used in the hot patch season which is about April 2nd, I believe, was the first day. We've used 21.5 tons of hot mix. We've cleaned 108 approximate catch basins. All of our water breaks have been finished, overlaid, and all the billing to Cleveland Water is in for a total of somewhere around $60,000. Our sweeper has swept approximately 140 miles of curbs throughout the city. They've been through the city at least once. Sanitary, we've dug 21 residences. We've performed 32 camera jobs to establish these sanitary digs or storm repairs. In the first 4 months of the year, we've done 258 sewer calls for residences. Last bulk in April, that Monday, I believe it was the 10th, not sure of the date, but picked up 60 tons, approximately 60 tons, 58 tons of bulk items. Approximately 60 tons of rubbish is picked up every day by our automated rubbish trucks. And back to bulk, just a reminder to the residents, bulk Mondays are for things that do not fit in your rubbish can, in your black carts. It's not an extra garbage day. It's a day to get rid of a couch, a washer, something big that you can't get rid of on your own. We do have facilities or capabilities at the service garage for you to bring other things. If you have extra garbage, bring it to the service garage. It takes a lot of time and effort. I have to put 10 guys, 5 rubbish trucks out on bulk Mondays. It's a big undertaking, and to serve the purpose it needs to do, we have to get limited to the bulk items. I believe that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Gardner. I'll go to the Law Director, Ms. Horvath.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Law Department will present a list of pending civil litigation to Council on May 15th prior to the meeting. And other than that, I have nothing further to report. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam. Moving on to the Finance Director, Mr. Single.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Monthly reports for April will be distributed in the next few days. As always, if there are any questions, please let me know. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Single. Questions? Short questions? Mr. Mancini?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thought you were going to go left, but you went right on me. Thank you. First off, to our Law Director, Carol Horvath, thank you very much for all the help on my resolutions and ordinances. It was a big help, did a lot of work. We've still got a little more work to do, but I appreciate everything you did. Greg, our Finance Director, I wanted to tell you, very good job on the budget and for answering a lot of our questions here on the spot on the moment, too. I know sometimes that ain't easy. As good as you are with it, it's not. Sometimes you do very well. Thank you. And just one real brief one. When they get over to Middlebrook, they're doing everything, right? The dirt, all that stuff, the seeding and all that, when they go back out and check from what they did last fall.
Yes, the one side, we did more of a final seed, just because of the timing. The other side was more of a temporary, we kind of wait and see how, what came in, but they'll address issues on both sides of the street, regardless if it was, intended just to get us through the winter or if it was more of a permanent seed. So they'll address both sides.
Okay, that'll be good. Thank you. Couple calls, and I know we had talked about it a little closer to Holland there about the dirt falling a little bit low on them tree lawns, so if that could be seen. But I thank you, and I know we don't have a safety director, and Mayor, our safety forces do a great job for the low numbers they have, and I again agree with you. We do got to get younger, so I'll just leave it at that. For what they have, they do a very good job, and on that, I'm going to finish it up to our service director, Randy. Same there. I mean, you're reading us these numbers just in 4 months. you know, 258 sewer calls. I mean, do the math when you're doing the tonnage for the rubbish pickup. I mean, there's so many things we're doing. We're still doing ball fields. The guys have done a great job on this hot patch. I seen them around the complex today. Randy, I ask you a question. How many, throughout the mechanics, and how many guys do you have down there?
There's, including my shop dispatcher, mechanics, 2 custodians, the building maintenance department. There's 40 union employees there.
Okay, when you take out the mechanics and some of the other guys, because
It leaves me with 17 laborers and my 6 working foremen.
yeah, that's kind of where I'm getting. And for all that was done here, I mean, super. I know you got vacations coming up, and I know everybody knows that's where I was from. I think there was a point when I first got down there, crazy, there was 80 guys. You know, there was 80 guys down there, and so I don't know. I mean, we did a lot of great things then, but they do a super job, and I'm not patting them on the back because I was down there. I've been out and I've been seeing what they're doing. So far, pretty good job down there, and you know, give them all a shout out. And I think all the council administration feels that way. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mancini. Mr. Scott?
Yes, thank you. Through the chair to Ed. Ed, thanks again for you and me tag teaming CSX over on Westbrook. And eventually, we're going to get that bad boy done. I appreciate your time, man. I know I've been a pain with the constant phone calls. Through the chair to the service director. Yo, you're next. Number one, thank you for taking care of the fence over at Gallatin Park. I mean, that was a safety issue. I really think it makes it the backyard secure over there for the residents, and I totally appreciate that getting done. Now, I've had some phone calls from the residents. I've got a couple questions. The work that is being done on the Snow Road median, what's that about? People are calling me and are asking me what's going on over there, and I drove by there today and I see there's planters going in there. What transpired? We had trees in there, right?
Yes, sir, Mayor.
Councilman, I can answer that question. The trees that we had there were dead, and we're trying to upgrade the image of the city, and that's right where anybody going to the airport gets off and sees Brook Park. They might not see anything else in Brook Park, but right there. Also, when they get on 71 from the airport going south, that's what they see. So we've invested in some heavy-duty planters to put in there, to put flowers, things of that nature, to spruce it up, to make it look nice. And part of it is with the Brook Park Botanical Club is going to volunteer to plant the flowers in there. Also, we also have the Brook Park Beautification Committee. They've all given us some banners to put up across the city. So we're doing all this at very, very, very minimal cost. And it's going to look good when it's done. But again, the trees were dead. They had to come out. And the problem is those planters that they had were below the road. So all the salt and everything else was getting in there, and it was causing a problem, killing them. These, they're up, and the salt's not going to be the factor. They're huge planters. Nobody's going to be taking them, and so they're sound.
Okay, does the city own them planters?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and who's going to service the planters? I mean, you know, to water them, I mean, those are going to be live plants, correct?
Yes, there will be plants in the planters.
Who's going to take care of the watering, the maintenance and the upkeep on that?
Probably our service department, maybe some volunteers, but they will be maintained and watered. If I got to stop by and do it personally, I'll do that. I'm a big plant guy.
Would that be, through the mayor to you, would that be a safety issue if we have the volunteers on that median watering that? I don't want anybody to, you know, possibly get hurt, you know, get hit or whatever, walking on that median, watering it.
Okay, well, if that's how you feel, perhaps we'll make certain that we have the service department do it. But again, it's going to look good. It's going to get done.
So going back, those trees are dead? Those trees were dead?
Oh, absolutely. And I think anything, Councilman, that you would have put in to those landscape holes would have died simply because of the salt. And you're gonna need things there that, number one, can stand a great deal of sun. And planting trees there, the problem with trees, it's the same thing when you put trees in your front yard. Eventually, the roots are gonna affect your driveway and the sidewalk and things of that nature. So we felt the planters with the flowers would be the right way to go. Perhaps around Christmas, we can toss in some Christmas trees with ornaments in there to look nice. Again, that's the one section of the city that a lot of people don't drive around through, but they get off 71, they see that, and it's kind of a good welcome to the community.
Is there any other plans of upgrading that median? Or is that going to be?
We're going to continue on with different things. As you know, as we talked about, I'd like to see a big improvement up there. We discussed that last week. But it's going to be an ongoing procedure. You can't do it all at once, but we're going to do it. We're going to fix it up, spruce it up, and make everything look good.
Could there have been a way to let council know or what was going on? Because like I said, I'm getting phone calls and people are asking what's going on. And I hate to say it, I should know the answers about, the questions that were asked of me. And I don't know if anybody on council knew anything about what was going on over there.
Well, again, they're just flower planters. And if you had a question, you could have called my office. I'd happily answer it. It's not something that is earth. They're just planters that we're putting in.
Not to be argumentative, sir, but my job is to know, resident calls me, I can't keep telling the resident, oh, I don't know, I gotta go find out what's going on. I mean, something like that, I think we should have at least had some kind of idea. I got phone calls today and I called a couple of other council members and they didn't know anything about it. And they had to take a ride by to know what was going on. So I'm just saying, we need communication on that. I hate to be asked a question, and then I have to go, well, I don't know, that's not my job. My job is to know what's going on. And number two, is
agree.
that, are those medians, are those owned by the city, or are those state property, that median? Is that state property, or is that the city's property?
City.
The city property?
City. Now, let me say this as well. Communication is a two-way street. If you have a question like that, just pick up the phone, call myself, call the service director, and we'd be happy to answer your questions. Again, I didn't think it was, if you want me to tell you every time we plant a flower in a city, we're doing it, my reports will get a lot longer.
I don't want to be argumentative. I mean, that's a big project. We tore trees out. Were the trees dead? You're saying they're dead. I'm just saying, I'm getting calls and I couldn't answer them. That's why I'm asking the questions
All
tonight.
right, the trees were dead. That's why we tore them out, and we're going to put something in there that's going to survive.
Okay, thank you.
You're
That's all.
welcome.
One quick question. Mayor, who is the Botanical Club, and when did this club become a recognized club of the city of Brook Park? I mean, I know Pride and Beautification has been around forever. And I'm just kind of confused. I mean, I'm hearing about it here recently, just a little bit of scuttlebutt back and forth. And apparently it's a new one that is popping up.
Whenever people come to me and say they want to volunteer, I ask them, what do you want to do? What's your plan? And a botanical group is a group of people who live here in the community, a large group, even somewhat including the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, who want to help beautify the city at no cost to the taxpayer and plant flowers, plant trees. Yes, we will pay for the flowers, no question about that. We'll buy them off the Boy Scouts who sell them here. But again, it's all about trying to make the city look better, to make a statement. It's not going to be business as usual, gentlemen. We're going to move this city forward.
Thank you. Mr. Orcutt.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair to the engineer, Mr. Piatek, I apologize for stealing your thunder officially, but I do have a question about the study that's being done. That's the Southwest Interceptor study that's going on. It's a $13 million study that's happening over 3 years. When Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District finishes that report, what are they doing? Are they going to repair? Does that include any repairs to them? Or do they just turn that report over to the cities, and are they responsible for the repairs?
When the study's done, there'll be a list of projects and prioritized it's my understanding that their intent is not to fund those projects, but those would be a list for the cities to undertake. And, you know, some of the community cost share account funds that the city is holding could be used for those projects. And they have another program. It's the Member Community Infrastructure Program. It's another grant program that they have that they're, you know, looking to ramp up some funding for to help communities out with some of those projects. So, no, when the study is complete, they'll turn the report over, and it'll be basically a list of recommendations to help the city out in addressing the issues.
Well, perfect. So they're going to identify our inefficiencies. That's great. Again, sorry for stealing your thunder. When it comes to the sewer and stuff like that, that's a high priority. Don't shoot the messenger.
You did an excellent job.
Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just up here speaking for my constituents. Then for the service director, through the chair to Mr. Gardner, the numbers that you came up with today are amazing. All the calls that these guys have been on, I've seen the street sweeper every single day. I run around and I follow that Vector everywhere. So a lot of good things are happening. But I just want to take some time to thank you for that fast response this morning on Pike Boulevard. We thought it was something major, and all it was some calcium buildup, and you guys were able to ID it and punch through it. So thank you, and thanks for all the hard work to the men and women down there.
You're welcome.
That's
Thank
all
you,
I have,
Mr. Orcutt.
Chairman.
Mr. Bergio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the chair, to the mayor, I know it's kind of early yet, but how is the grass cutting program working so far? As far as, you know,
Well, we had signups. We had a good amount of signups, and we'll implement the grass cutting program so the residents are served.
I know there's a lot of interest in that. My grass is like that tall. My lawnmower wouldn't start, so I know that the grass is growing pretty fast. I just wanted to know if you had any updates. I know there's a lot of interest in that, and just wanted to know if what you've heard on that.
Thank you.
It's going good.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Salvatore. Or Mr. Bergio, going to Mr. Salvatore now.
You're welcome, Mr. President. I don't know what you did, but you're welcome.
Nothing at all, sir.
I know we're out of the portion of the meeting where there was questions to the mayor, but just to follow up on Councilman Scott's question, you know, I had discussions with you, Mayor, and I had also brought it to the council floor about doing some beautification to our city, and that intersection was one of our main topics, and we've been talking about that for many years, and I was hoping that we would do something similar to what we did on the underpass. So at Snow Road, that we'd match that with either some red brick or stamped concrete to match the red brick at the underpass, and maybe add some lighting. So I'm hoping that what's going to take place there is only temporary, and we're going to take a good hard look at doing something on a more permanent basis later on down the road, Mayor.
Well, we'll see how the pots work out. Right now, Rick, I don't think they're going to be temporary. I think they're going to be a permanent fixture there. I think they'll look very nice. And we're going to continue to do whatever we can do at an affordable price to upgrade that area. There's one huge upgrade I'd like to see in that area. And again, I talked to you about that last week, and we'll talk about that in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Salvatore. I'm going to jump in. I have a question for Mr. Garner, a couple questions, actually. Mr. Garner, how many trees were down in that median? Do you know off the top of your head?
There's 14 landscape areas in that area. There were only 11 trees left. And just to reiterate, those trees, when I left here in 14, they had been replaced twice by the vendor on a condition to grow situation. They did not. So it was strung out over probably 8 or 9 years. And this year was no different. I go up there, they were, all the limbs are dead on them going up. There might have been 3 or 4 live buds on it. They weren't ever going to amount to anything. Too much overspray, salt in the air there, actual salt thrown up on the island itself. So.
Did we have to cut and grind those?
They were pulled out with a backhoe. There was no root system. I mean, they're just practically dormant. And, they never expanded. They just pulled right out. They were put in a truck and, yes, ground up.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no one else, we will move on to letter J. Oh,
I got a
Mr.
question.
Scott.
We have 2 items left on the caucus, and I think, I may be wrong, I think we should approach those before we get to J and, miscellaneous, and remarks from the audience, because there are items on there. I don't know what you think. Like I said, we've got Jimmy's, that's got to be voted on. We've got the proposed changes council due to the fact that May 8th is election day. There's stuff that's got to be voted on. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm just wondering if we should move and take care of those 2 items before we go into the, discussions and,
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Salvatore.
it's my understanding that they're not going to be using the council chambers for election day, is that correct?
Correct.
They're not using it? Okay, so I don't see any reason why we need to cancel the meeting.
we've got a candidate that's,
He could be properly excused, especially if he wins.
We won't know that till later.
If
the
that's,
next day.
first of all, council, you can make a motion to recess this meeting to go back to the other, or we continue with this one and then go back to caucus as,
Jimmy, you want to get yours done?
I'm 50/50. I was thinking you were leaning a little towards that schedule because of the election, but I'm fine if you just want to have that on first reading, but I just kind of thought,
Mr. Mancini, the portion that he's asking you about is your piece that you have in your committee.
right,
If you would
if I
like
wanted
it
to
to
vote it on
appear,
tonight, yeah, it'd be good. I have no problem with that, absolutely, if we want to, but
then
again,
council, you have a decision to make a motion to recess this meeting and go back to that meeting, or we continue on.
Make a motion, recess the regular council meeting to go back to the caucus to finalize these 2 items on the caucus agenda.
The motion on the floor to recess the council meeting to go back to the caucus meeting.
If I could, for a point of clarification, because I thought we had a candidate in for the scheduling for the election date, and I thought that's kind of where you were going, is that we
I
have
would
to
like
do
to
that
work the
now.
polls too, you know.
suspend it, Adopt it.
Well, that would be let's discuss that under there. So whether you guys have a motion on the floor, if it's gonna be supported, somebody needs to support it. If not, then this is where we are.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Salvatore,
motion dies for lack of second.
that's where we're at currently. It just took the words out of my mouth. So motion has died for a lack of a second. We will continue on. Letter J, other communications, petitions, and verbal approval, introduction of new legislation. We currently do not have anything. Letter K, miscellaneous business appointments, confirmations. We don't have anything in there either. Letter L, remarks from the audience on any subject matter. Those that would like to come and speak, please state your name and address for the record.
Ready? So Elizabeth Sayers, 23065 Cedar Point Road, Brook Park, 44142. This is about all this beautification, garden club and everything, okay? I just wanted to get one thing straight. I had to make sure I okayed everything with the mayor, and the mayor okayed it with everybody else. And pulling out dead trees and everything, now if I would have done that, I would have had a criminal charge against me for pulling out dead plants, which I had, for pulling out plants that were dead. Nobody really knew what was going on with the garden club, whatever you want to call it, which I had to make sure doing the gazebo that I included, because it's city property, and I wanted everybody to join me. And like I'm doing it now, anybody can come. I welcome anybody to have some fun with me, okay? But what you did, that was kind of a hush-hush thing,
and you had to read it through people you knew on Facebook, or they wanted to let you know. Now, I think that's pretty crappy, because you know what? When you have a garden club or beautification here, it's a city thing. And making the service department do everything, come on. This is supposed to be volunteers from the residents. The residents are supposed to be doing all this, okay? 1 minute you're saying the city's gonna pay for this and that and everything else. Well, guess what? Everything I'm doing over here, I'm not asking anybody for a dime. I'm not asking anybody for plants. I'm not asking anybody to help me, except you're free to come. It's city property. Plant a flower, help me pull weeds, do whatever, okay? But what you did, I thought it was kind of rude and inconsiderate, because nobody knew what was going on. Nobody knew where they were going. And you don't like blue, so they had to change the color of those cement things, and I found that out through the grapevine. And I think that's pretty, pretty low. The city workers I have talked to last year, when nobody was doing anything with the city, okay? Nobody was pulling weeds, planting flowers, or anything else. And I talked to some of the city workers. They are so busy at this time of the year trying to clean up, mow yards, fix things, do everything. They don't have time for a little beautification thing to stop everything to go and help these people. That's what we're supposed to be doing. The residents are supposed to be doing it. And I know how hard the service department works, okay, unless they're volunteering their time or whatever. But, 1 minute I hear about the city's going to pay for this, the city's going to do this, the city's going to do that. Well, you know what? What I understand, when you have something like what I'm doing with the gazebo and everything, it's supposed to be a resident thing, okay? I can understand having the city put those in, okay? Because you can't do it yourself, they're too heavy or anything. But you know what? I don't understand all this, And for a mayor, you think you would let everybody know, hey, there's a new garden group and this is what they're doing and everything, and make it a big ordeal. And it's kind of sad that nobody up there knows what's going on, because you guys don't have any communication. And you really don't, and it needs to start, okay? In my opinion, it needs to start. And like over here, come on. If everybody's so concerned about this city, we wouldn't be talking behind everybody's back. We wouldn't be stabbing everybody in the back. We would come and say, hey, Liz, I brought you some flowers. You want to plant them? Because I was very verbal abused by the beautification, okay? I was very abused by that. I was invited to one of their meetings. I was screamed at, yelled at, threatened, and a finger in my face. That shows you that we got a real good communication going in this city, and we work so well together. Okay, the little garden club, I don't want to be part of that because of all the bad experiences. Okay, I pull out dead flowers, I get accused of criminal charges of destroying city property. You go over there and pull out dead trees and everything, you do anything that these people are telling you to do. I wish I could come up to you and tell you everything I want done and how I want things done, because you don't do it when I asked you. Where was the service department when I asked them before the weather really got nice? Okay, there's glass all over there. I couldn't sit on my right cheek because I sat on that step over there, didn't realizing how much glass is over there from all the bulbs being broken. You got an electrical system, and I used to have an electrical company, so I know all about it. It's a joke. It's not up to code. It's not up to anything but a joke. Okay? All somebody did was go up there and pull the plugs and left one light on. Now, all those other lights on the roof, you can say, oh, it's beautiful and everything else, are getting busted, and they're all over the grass. Okay? That's city property. Let me cut my hand. I'm not going to show anybody where I got cut, but let me cut my hand up because it isn't cleaned up over there. Okay? What happens if a little kid comes over there and wants to help me plant a flower and all these broken bulbs are everywhere because I asked to get the bulbs completely off that gazebo? But instead of doing that, we got to jump for the other group and do all that first. One project at a time. Okay? And I let everybody know. about those bulbs and be careful, the broken glass and everything. Yeah, you took one strip around the gazebo off because those were all busted. What about the top where everybody climbs up and gets the bigger bulbs that are like 4 inches or something like that compared to the teeny little ones? Why don't you take one project at a time? Instead of jumping into the other, I'm not condemning anybody, don't anybody get me wrong, but instead of jumping into another garden club and just going all out for just that one garden club, why don't you take care of what was already in progress, already been asked? Okay? Now, the weather's nice and everything, and if I have anybody come over there and help me or want to horse around or whatever, and they get cut up, they're going to answer to you because you've already been told. And you're already told about that electrical. And electrical, those are household extension cords and everything up there. Now, everywhere else that I've seen a gazebo, and the one in Olmsted Falls, my dad and brother helped build, okay? They don't have all the fancy lights and all that and everything, and they keep it pretty well contained over there. This one, nobody gives a darn about. Well, you don't give a darn about it, then tear the darn thing down. And I know they are, because the buildings are all going to go. But this is my last hurrah, and I thought, wow, why don't we clean it up and make it look halfway decent? But I found out tonight, it's all about the other garden club. It's all about them, what they need, what they have to have. Have the service department basically do everything for them. That's fine. But once you finish the first project, this is the one I got going with Mayor Coyne and Ralph Lone. Okay? I put up with enough abuse. I put up with enough police reports and all the harassments, threats, and everything else. Okay? Now, I'd like you to do something about it. And instead of, sitting up there telling me how, this money's going here and this money's going there, and we're buying flowers, we're buying this, we're doing that, take the bulbs off the gazebo before somebody gets really hurt. And, have the residents help instead of forking out money that everybody says the city doesn't have. And why does the service department, have to do everything for them? I can understand the heavy stuff and that kind of stuff, but then drop it and let the residents finish it. Just like it was for me. I don't ask them for nothing. I don't ask them for any kind of help, and I don't ask you either. So, and the beautification should be squashed, in my opinion, because nobody can tell me what they actually do besides yell at me. Okay? I don't understand what they do. The banners, come on, how long are those going to last? Flowers will last 3 or 4 months. A banner might last about a month because someone will tear it up or take it out. I mean, there's other things that are more important than banners. I'm sorry to say it, but beautification, I don't see what they do. I don't see how they're helping anybody. And all they do is talk about, we got to put a sign in this guy's yard. And whatever, I don't really understand what they do. And after that meeting that I had with them, I think it should be squashed because you know what? I'm not allowed to do it to you. And these people this is supposed to be a city group. City groups shouldn't be able to threaten each other. They shouldn't be threatening and screaming at somebody that walks into a meeting that she was invited to, because I didn't want to go, to explain what was going on with the gazebo. Because they were having problems with the gazebo. They wanted to take control over it. Go for it. I mean, it's city property. So my opinion is, one group. The other group, I don't see what they're doing. Okay? And all you said is banners. I'm not going to say any more, but you know what? 1 minute you're saying one thing and then you're saying another. And I'm standing here thinking, I'm not asking anybody for anything. But yet, you got the service department, you got and nobody knows what's going on in the city. It's going in a vicious circle. And so am I, so I'm done. But I think, you need to squash one of the garden things. You need to squash beautification. I don't care how long it's been here. I don't see those ladies out here doing a thing, except complaining. So, you need to do something. And with the new group, I think you should let everybody know who's in that group, what they are doing, because it's supposed to be a city group. Tell everybody what they are, who's in it, and what they're going to do for the city. Because all I ever hear is about those stupid things, those planners, which will probably be pretty when they're done, whatever. But you know what? I think you should inform people before we all find it out on the street. And then I get yelled at because I say something wrong. So I'm done.
Thank you, Ms. Sayers.
Dan Eberhart, 16024 Richard Drive. I had a lot I did want to say, and I think I'll cut it short given the previous speaker. Anyways, first and foremost, what I want to do is Mayor Gamella, you set a goal that you want to be the best mayor the city's ever had. It's awesome, okay? And I wish you the best of luck at doing that. Even if, you got some heavy shoes to fill. Even if you get halfway up that ladder, it's a successful tenure, all right? The council, you basically got me in trouble with my wife, all right? What's happened is that your transition has been so smooth. I've been getting out of here at 8:30 at night, all right, most nights. Walk in the door, and now she thinks I've been lying to her over the last 2 years, and I was going out with my buddies, you know, with Salvatore and Scott, and hitting necks afterwards. What I'm getting at is, it's a great transition, okay? You know, I know a lot of people didn't like the way the last 2 years went. There's various reasons, various costs. It's in the past. But we have lost I want to point out to you, we have lost an opportunity as well. All right, Arts and Entertainment had the city slated for a new reality show, politically based, and I guess they basically chucked that out the window now. But anyways, just to lighten things up a little bit. Council, I got to tell you specifically, Brian, Greg, Ed, new council president, you really hit the ground well. I'm impressed at how well you've melded in. Of course, you've got some decent. We got Grandpa up there. You know, and I say
Carl,
that.
take offense to that.
Yeah, no, I said, you know, no, I say that with love, Rick, because you've been great for the city.
Well, I am a grandpa, so thank you.
This is true, okay?
I am too.
I appreciate the openness, even though I don't agree with a lot of stuff, nor should I be expected to agree with it. I appreciate the openness to dialogue and the respect, and I think it's starting to filter back out here. A lot of times I think we followed, and I was probably guilty at some portions the last 2 years, but we followed what was happening up on the dais, and that's basically gone away. Budget discussions have been informative, yet as a resident, concerning to me, and I'll get into that a little bit later. I appreciate the candor over it. I think when we display candor in a tactful manner, I think things get accomplished. All right. Jimmy, I love it. You know, the glass is half full. I disagree. People get up here and say this city's gone down the tubes. You know, at times we're treading water. We are an inner ring suburb. We do have our challenges. A lot of our challenges sometimes are beyond our control. But like you, Jimmy, it's not half full. We're still 3/4 full. I think we're treading water a little bit. We got to be careful there because you can only tread water so long. Still a great place to live, Jimmy. All right, and I want to make a comment about the groups, okay? One of the things we have here is excellent services, all right? Of course, book's still out on you, Randy. We'll see. No, actually, great amenities, all right? And we have some very good civic and charitable groups that operate in this city, going all the way back to the oldest one, which is the Brook Park Boosters. Followed that up, and correct me if I'm wrong, Carl, you got the Beautification and Pride Committee. You kicked that off 12 years ago. And my wife, I have to give it to my wife. My wife is a proud owner of one of the signs, and she worked hard, and we work hard to keep our property up. It's not just, as explained, our garden or our grass. Neighborhood Watch Group, we are in our 3rd year, and we've been offering more and more every year. Those that missed, Greg, you talked about the human trafficking thing. I was in attendance. I'll tell you what, I learned a lot, all right? But I also learned a lot about myself from the 2 sisters of the Catholic Church that presented that, and that was how desensitized I have personally come to human trafficking overall. Being a little candid and humor here, I don't know that I can go into a Chinese buffet any longer without looking around, because it does extend past prostitution, things like, prostitution, and the normal type things. Going on, the new group that came up, it doesn't matter to me who belongs to it. I got to put that aside. Okay, it's what they're going to do, and I'm talking about the botanical, the botanical group. We also have a neighbor helping neighbor program that's out there, started by former Councilwoman Powers. I'm sorry, it's and I believe Miss Barber has started one very similar or likely helping thy neighbor. Let's move over to, of course, Audrey's Outreach Ministries. A lot of people don't realize Audrey's Outreach was in operation well before they became a food pantry. All right, it is a ministry, and they have 5 directors, and yes, they do belong to that church, but they did things like clothing, they did all kinds of community meals, not just for the hungry, not just for those in need. They've expanded that. Okay, they now have expanded into the lunch sack program, which will be its 3rd year coming up. My point in all this is these organizations, regardless of what we have any personal feelings with the people that are involved, that needs to be set aside, and we need to help. Where we want to chip in, by all means. I mean, I'm not a gardener. I'm not going out there, but I do. And I'll leave one other thing on that. I always say, think about how much of a better place this country would be, but also this city, if we all spent 1 hour a week or 1 hour a month donating some time, whether it be help your neighbors, so on and so forth. All right. Now, the current budget. The leanness, honestly, I've been following the budget for the last few years. I was a big supporter, and I'll be perfectly honest with you, of the previous proposed the tax levies. And I'll get into that a little bit later. But the leanness, I tell you again, is no surprise. Rick, I want to go back to something you said in one of the earlier council meetings, that mayor and the current council, and I actually think any mayor and current council needs to also look towards the future, all right, and help prepare this city for the future. So not only the short, the near, but the long-term goals, and what's best overall for the citizens. I'll be honest with you, I have different opinion with you, Mayor, and I think there's one member of council that I differ with when it comes to the citizens kicking in a little bit more as a personal investment to their city by way of an income tax raise. But let's take a look over some. I'm also concerned about sustainment of programs. Okay, I watched your dialogue. I watched your back and forth. Mayor submitted a budget that cut out the sidewalk repair program. That program, in my opinion, should be an ongoing program. I'll give you a perfect example. I'll use an experience for our experience. We were in phase 2, which means our inspection was 2016. Okay, we had no problems. We passed, and my sidewalk wasn't in great shape. Okay, 2 years later, and I anticipated the program still going on. It's not. I have 4 blocks that have to be replaced. All right, I am not into replacing individual blocks. I would have swung a deal with the contractor, got my portion. Right now, I'm looking at replacing an entire sidewalk. Okay, not a problem. I understand the things back and forth. The HMAP program, very important program. Council, you move some money out of that for right now. Okay, I get it. I understand. But let's look. Hopefully, that money becomes available where you move it back in. And I know I had conversations with Councilman Scott. I would have liked to see that HMAP program be funded a little better. A lot of that money really goes a long way, especially for our low-income folks. Okay, don't worry about my sidewalk. Fortunately, I can take care of that myself. But when you start bringing programs back, or we start to hopefully get the revenue, don't toss that out the window. Sidewalks change on an annual basis. All right. I like some of the ideas that people have come up with. Mayor, funny you should mention Lake to Lake, because I got that in my notes. When it comes to programs that are going to add value to the city, but also increase services, one of the things I looked at was, I love the Lake to Lake thing. And I'm sure there's a way we can get Metro Parks to maybe kick in some of that. Maybe we'll have to kick some, but that's outstanding. Dog park. I love that idea. Again, giving something to different segments in a society and looking at the entire package and appealing to more than just one select group of people. All-inclusive playground equipment. One of my favorite ideas that was brought up. That was Jack Thomas a couple years ago. Again, it's a lot of times we can get it with donations. Sometimes it's going to cost money. And we have a lean budget. Got it. Expanding picnic areas. You know, we have in my opinion, anybody that calls says our municipal complex is a dump hasn't been over there. It's not a dump. All right, that municipal complex is a great, great asset to this community, you know, and the members. And I think we have an opportunity coming up. I know we're compressing stuff and moving the diamond over there, but compressing it, I think we need to keep that on the not short-term, but near-term scope. There's a lot we can do there. I don't know. I've heard rumors about these two buildings. I've heard a rumor that says we can no longer bring those back into service. I don't know how true that is. That's for you all to determine or abide by. But in the same sense, if it's got to be, if we can't, that we demolish them. Do not forget, maybe expand the gazebo area. There's so much you can do that adds value and quality of life to the city beyond the normal things we talk about roads. And speaking of roads, if you got it, Mayor, I live on Richard Drive. All right, that is one of the worst. And honestly, but I'm not going to stand up here and say I want to know when you're going to fix, when you're going to redo, because it is a reconstruct. Richard Drive. I know you don't have that answer, and it'd be an unfair question at this point in time. Where I look at as a senior, and I am a senior, believe it or not, Ed. Okay, I know what you were thinking. You don't look a day over 40, but I am a young senior, and I appreciate that thoughts. But I will tell you this: it is great to be young again, honestly. All right. As a senior, I look at what this city did for my family and my kids. And it was a great place for me to raise my kids. All right. I was not familiar with it. My parents owned a home on Fayette Boulevard, original owner back in 59 and 60. We moved soon after back to Old Brooklyn. I'll tell you how new the city was. From my backyard on Fayette, I watched the earth moving equipment start to pave the way for Gallatin to go in. So that's how far I went back, okay? I went to school for a year and a half here at a place called Margaret Robb Elementary School. For those people, you probably know it better as North Park. So there's been an evolution of things. My wife actually was raised here. So, and when we came to coming here in '85, this was the place. There was no doubt in our mind. Property, price of property, school district, very important. And I'm still a big fan of the Berea City School District. Plus the city services and a tax rate. What I want to see, where my head's at is to watching the city provide for those younger and middle-aged families, because I think that's what's important. That's what's going to continue to grow this city. So we got to make sure that we're properly taking care of them and providing for them. Yep, us seniors, hey. Most of us, we'll get it together, but let's be honest, okay? We provide, I'm going to tell you right now, and I got an experience last summer where Ellen, the senior bus driver, had to take leave of absence for medical reasons, and Lou asked me to fill in, and I cautiously finally agreed, and I tell you what, I had the time of my life. They were a blast. And hard work, you know, which, matter of fact, while I'm on that note, I'm going to say, something I talked with Councilman Scott about. We raised the minimum wage 2 years ago, I think it was, to $10 an hour. Did council at that time or the mayor give any thought to what are you going to do for those people that have already been determined their jobs should be paid more than minimum wage? Because those two the bus driver and the other person that takes the seniors to medical appointments, they're stuck on $10 an hour. Let me tell you something. That's not a minimum wage job, or it should not be. Just food for thought. All right. But it is the punchline here that I want to get to is it's evident, and Mayor, I appreciate your candidness, you know, and on your opinion of an income tax or even property tax. I don't see eye to eye with you on that. I think that needs much more investigation. I looked into the 2% tax was raised in 1991. So we're dealing, 27 years now. Communities around us have gone to 2.5. All right, Parma's been there a while. I know because I felt the pain because I worked there for a while, quite a few years until we moved up to Twinsburg. Parma Heights is up to 3 point. Berea's at 2, but they only give their residents a 1.3% credit, 3/4% credit. So again, I understand the campaign issues, and I know there's a couple councilmen that maybe disagree with me. That's fine. You know, when we disagree with things, we tend to find a common point where we can move forward. Mayor, you mentioned Ford's furloughs, okay? I really appreciate you keeping us. I know Mayor Coyne did the same thing, try to keep us abreast of what's going on with Ford, but that furlough was 200 employees. Okay, let's not forget there's another Ford, all right, that will be closing its doors in a few weeks, and that's Ford Middle School. All right, they currently employ, of the 2018 roster, they currently employ 93 people. Most of those 93 are certified staff being teachers and administrators. Those are the $65,000 or more jobs. So all said and done, we're looking at a furlough at 200 and losing 93. I would venture a guess that's probably $275,000 to $300,000, and I don't know what the auto workers make over there, but about $275,000 to $300,000. So and that's and the state of, to me, the state of our budget right now, that's vulnerable. That leaves us quite vulnerable. All right. My hat goes off to Scott Adams, okay? I sat back and listened to him last week, and you know what? His enthusiasm and go-getiveness, I tell you what, I was quite impressed. I hope he doesn't lose that. And in fact, Mayor, I would commend all your administration that I've come in contact with. Hold them to task, and I think they're going to deliver for you. It was good to see Mark come back. Great, you know. Be perfectly honest with you, I was a Mary Ann Fields fan. Hated to see her go, but if there was one person to bring back in, Mark, it's a good asset back in the community. Back on the taxes, okay, that's for, you mentioned last week, Mayor, about the 200 worker furlough. The following day, I don't know, you may be aware of it, the Detroit Press ran an article highlighting Ford and what's going on. And there's no inclination as to what it could have, you know, what's going to happen here, but there could be a good side to that, but there can also be a very bad side to that, especially when they're talking about trimming costs. And last I checked, correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, if I got a piece of property and there's a structure on it, I pay property tax on the property and the structure. I take the structure down, I pay property tax on the property only, no more structure. I don't know what's not in service over there, but if they're trimming costs, and I think correct me if I'm wrong, Mayor, Detroit Press said $14 billion, but then they were initially, and there was another $11 billion they were looking to cut costs. So the SUV thing doesn't surprise me. All automakers are making that, and you know what? They didn't see that. I don't think they saw that coming. I don't think any of them saw it coming. So when we look at the other thing I like, Mayor, and I'm sure he is following your vision on as far as rebuilding the city by bringing jobs in. I see it as coming as more a pragmatic approach. I like the fact that he's talking about Brookgate. I will caution one thing. Let's make sure that Brook Park residents are going to support the business, be the primary supporters of that business. We talk about family residents. Me and my wife eat out twice a week. One time is usually at a restaurant in Brook Park. Goodies is our choice. But if you look at the other family residents, okay, place to be, the garden, they close their doors 3 o'clock, 7 days a week. Goodies stays open primarily probably because of the hotel traffic. So we need to be careful what we're bringing in, more of the same. I would like to see us bring in, I know everybody was just gaga over Tim Hortons. Hey, nice, you know, that'd be great. That'd be great. And I hope that we follow through and get Brookgate to become good business citizens. There's a lot of work that can be done there. But the rubber meets the road. The problem is with going for economic development as your sole source of increasing revenue, all right, if you don't score, right, you have not made a step forward. And that's where you're treading water, you get to that point treading water, you start to sink. Figure, okay? If we have a $48,000 median family income in this city, let's round that up to $50,000. Let's assume jobs we bring in are making that. We would take, in order to increase revenues, tax revenues, $1 million by way of income tax, That would be addition of 1,000 jobs, which brings me to my punchline. All right? I'm assuming due diligence, council, mayor, I'm confident, internal reviews, and from top to bottom, okay? Overtime at the fire department, $425,000. I understand the nature of that beast. It's a different animal there. My question is was that in fact overtime payroll? And did that payroll include the city's responsibility for the funding of due the state fireman's pension fund, which is 24 cents on the dollar? Nobody's been able to answer that question. If it didn't, then that overtime is up over, add another $112,000 and change to that. Okay, so my point in that is, I'm not going to blast either, I have no problem with the fire department or the police department. If I can't, as a crossing guard, I actually work for the police, so I can't say nothing bad till I stop working for them. I'm not just kidding. But the fire department, they do great city services. My question is, do we need to look into the hiring of we got to that point with the overtime? Do we need to look into hiring 3 additional firefighters? Would that bring that number down? So just food for thought. Again, we are very fortunate to have them and the police department. But when you talk about internal reviews, Jimmy brought some good points out about what we need possibly to add down there. Again, that's potentially additional human resources. I know there was talk about 3 police officers. Okay, I get that. What I would like to see is, what I would like to hear was not somebody shooting from the hip saying we need 3 more police officers. I would like to see the safety committee, the mayor, and police chief sit down and put their heads together. What do we really need, and how soon, or can we phase this in? All right. Tax increase consideration. Again, I think my personal belief is the answer is on both ends. I know there's been some discussion about between a couple of you about reducing the tax credit. Okay, how much you think that's going to bring in, and that all that to me, okay, that definitely an option. Okay, but ideally I would like to see a little bit more of a shared investment from everybody that resides in Brook Park to go along with the mayor's economic plan. You identify, and to do this in my previous life, I did work budgets. Previous life was before I retired, and became that young senior, Ed. So, anyways, roads and infrastructure, $45 million, Mayor, and that's up from 35. Yes, we have $5 million that between, and what you're now calling the 2018, 2019, $5 million. Fortunately, like you said, like you indicated, Mayor, we are getting that money from other sources to go along with what we're putting into the pot. All right, that's great when it comes to county roads. I talked to Ed Piatek last week. I don't know that kind of money is available when you're looking to do work on necessarily the secondary roads. And from Ed's discussion, he led me to believe that when it comes to side streets, boy, that's not too optimistic. Okay, and like I said, I'll go back. I live on a street. We're patient, but our street's roached. And then I got to drive down Dolores. So 45 mil, I understand. How fast can we make that work? Put that in there? Not fast right now. And there's no quick fix, in my opinion. Okay, that's where we got to get to a point where we got to crawl before we can start to walk towards that future that Rich Salvatore talks about. Let's go into, and then of course we got the engineering costs. So council, I applaud you for adding to what the mayor provided, kicking it up to 1.5 mil minus the engineering costs. So we're now at 1.2 mil. That at this point, that's going to go towards roads. And roads don't make, roads. I know we always talk about safety forces, and I know you took some out of the safety forces, but safety goes beyond police and fire. All right, safety, those roads. All right, need to get to the point where they're safe to travel. Okay, and I don't mean just hitting a chuckle, but I mean wear and tear that you don't understand. Next thing you know, you're going up and down Brook Park roads, and yes, I agree. I drive in the city; they're terrible. But just because Johnny's roads look like that doesn't mean Brook Park's roads got to look like that. And I think we all realize that. I think we're better than we have been better than that over the years. The poll, Mayor. I support you in that, okay? But I'll be perfectly honest with you. I also supported the endless poll, not as a replacement. I'm thinking, and a new pool, this endless pool would be a real nice amenity to put in there because water resistance is one of the best therapy thing. But as a replacement, no, I disagree with the previous mayor on that. But the pool, let's use the previous estimate. Now you got it right now at 500. But let's say we go at 2.9 to start, in addition to the 45 million roads. Last council meeting, y'all talked about a new fire and police station. You know, that, how many millions we talking there? Okay, that's just in, I would say, probably the fire station. We're not talking right now on long term. Okay, I think we're talking more on near term. Maybe the fire station is a little bit long term. All right, and everything you've talked about as far as improving the city, I've supported. Okay, I'm in favor of. Now, keep to identify those short, near, and long-term goals, and come up with a package as to what in the heck you think this is going to cost, both near, short, and long-term. Then take a look at how do we raise that money, and Greg is the guy that's got the answers. Okay, how much revenue by going to limiting the credit to 1 3/4%? What does that raise for us? During the previous tax proposal, the mayor had identified raising the tax to 2.5% would equate for $5 million. The property tax was going to do an additional $3 million. And Ed, let me tell you, I caught your comment. Yes, all right. The voters did not pass the previous levies, but I'm going to tell you right now, there was contributing factors. Right off the bat, 2 members of sitting council publicly came out, all right, against it. Then we have a hometown newspaper that panned it, okay? There was some question whether or not the mayor, and God love him, we all know Mayor Coyne, and I got a lot of respect for him, but we all know sometimes when he gets something in there, something going, it's a full head of steam, and he can come off the wrong way. Being honest, that saying we're going to have to cut, all of a sudden is threats. All right, and the coup de grace, there was a group that got together, and they were going door to door, against, telling us to vote no. Well, they got to my house. I look, and this guy sits there and looks me in the face. As sure as I'm standing here, the mayor is lying. That's going to cost you $2,000. Not what the mayor is saying. Well, first of all, I thought the wife got a huge pay raise, and she wasn't letting me in on it. All right. Second thing, I looked at him and I said, quote, do I really look like I fell off the turnip truck yesterday? I know what it's going to cost me. Have a nice day. All right. Some people may have believed that. So there was contributing factors. All right. But back to that. Okay. And then I'll conclude. I think we need to look at everything. The original proposal, 2.5, that will not raise the initial $5 million that Mayor Coyne was looking at. Simple reason. Since that time, the city of Cleveland, who employs more residents from Brook Park than any other city, has raised their income tax 2.5. So if we were giving that proposal, would have paid 2.5% with full credit to get to the 5%, we'd have lost a portion of that. Again, I don't know how much. So what I would recommend, take a look, and I'm not saying that you have to be for it. What I'm looking for you, mayor and council, is to lay it out there and come up with something that can be proposed to the people in the city that, in fact, can raise the income tax, and that is us citizens. Few ways to go. Raise to 2.25%, keep the credit at 2. All right? Last council, the council before, when they were messing around with it, 2 council members who originally were against it actually put on the table, which was also supported with Councilman Mancini, to raise it to 2.5, while the rest of council was talking about 2.5. They were looking 2.25. Again, it all comes to what you need, what we need to move. I think $5 million, is a nice figure. Okay, if we're not going to go to 2.5, if we're not going to go, or we find out it's not enough, go all the way to 2.5 and raise the credit to 2.25%, where every resident is making an investment, not a sacrifice, an investment. I understand the plight of the working man. In my old life, I was a working man for 35 straight years. Okay, so I understand that. It does get better, but nothing hurts more than when a young family makes their initial investment, that being their home, all right, and a lot of that takes up their savings, and watch that home, watch the price of that home start to go down. It's bad enough we have to worry about economic factors out there as opposed to deterioration of a city. And don't hope nobody misquotes me. I am not saying or implying that Brook Park has deteriorated. It has not, in my opinion. All right. Last I want to say is, if you would, and I went longer than I expected, if you put that together, it's not about whether or not you support it or not. It's giving the residents the necessary information. Here's what we can propose to do. Here's what it's going to get you, and let us make the decision. You know, let us make the decision. And being confident and being optimistic, Mayor, that our economic, because we do have it. Like I said, I listen to, I'm repeating myself here, which I try to avoid, but going back to Mr. Adams, you know, very, very optimistic and pointed out some great things. We do have a lot to offer. I like now leave the smokestacks, please, leave that on our seal. That's our history. I found out all about those smokestacks within the first couple months that I moved to Brook Park, trying to figure out where all those soot was coming from in my cars and my aluminum siding. So, but it is part of our history, and you know, Ford did put a lot into this community. But I loved what Scott Adams provided. It shows me that there's the mindset, but it takes a lot. You ain't gonna hit. There ain't no grand slams out there right now. There ain't no home runs out there right now. You know, there's also communities out there just like us, actually with probably a little bit more to offer when it comes to space and so on, that are competing for that same business. Guys, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Joan Markusik, 13911 Bellbrook. I want to address the pool area. I think right now we should just kind of put that on hold, only because we're putting enough money into the rec center right now, and we're already shifting funds to get our roads together. And the residents, you said, have already gone to other areas for a pool. And if we don't need to address that at this moment, maybe we should just put it on the back burner and maybe just have that be a hazardous area and forget it's there. I wanted to address the tax issue that the gentleman was talking about. I think residents would pass a tax levy if you said the tax increase money that you will be paying are going to pay for this. This is the only thing that this money can be used for. And that way then residents are not voting just to give you money. They're voting on improving an area in the city that you're going to use that money to fix. The planters. I think that's like a really bad idea. I would rather have nothing there. I drive Snow Road a lot because that's like my main vein in this city. And I think planters are a really bad idea. I would just rather see brick there. I don't care if you have like mosaic brick on there or whatever you want to do, but I really don't want to see a planter there. People drive crazy at certain times on that road, and with the speed and the lack of attention some people put into their driving, that is just like a bad idea. You need it somewhere where it's off to the side or somewhere where it's looking good at a distance, to me personally. And if you're going to put something in it, stop putting so much pressure on our service department. They're stretched as it is. And if you're going to put any kind of plants in there, look into succulents. They don't need a lot of water. They survive on rain. Also, the service department is doing a really good job. I'm really, really impressed with them. But I do want to know about the patchwork stuff that you're doing. I don't know, I'll be calling Rich Scott. He'll just love that. But I do need to know about that because there's a lot that needs to be done in my area. Not that I'm any more important than anybody else. But I just would like to say you guys are doing a really good job. I appreciate the cuts you made in the budget. And I really think that our roads are important. And I'm glad that you had the guts to address it. And kudos to you.
Thank you, Ms. Markusic.
Ray Peterlin, 5811 Wangler Drive. I have two things because last week I thought I would be able to speak and I wasn't. The turnaround, the second look. Do we see the city, really see it in others like ours? I ponder this question because we too often are unwilling to find new ways. Some of you like to beautify Snow Road I-71. Now we know what's going on down there. I hear the mayor saying he doesn't like trees. Well, I'll tell you what, all the tree lawns in all the cities, and they get salt, and the trees survive. Perennials. I have perennials planted on my tree lawn along with trees, and they've survived for 20 years with no problem. So it's doable. Now, if you go down by Baldwin Wallace on Bagley Road, you'll see how pretty that looks. They have trees and shrubs. If you put flowers in, they're only going to be there for a few weeks, a few months maybe. But go out there and take a look by the college. Look under their new underpass there. It's shrubs and trees, and it looks nice. Unless there's snow piled on it, it looks nice all the year long. Take a look. It's right in your community here. They were talking about doing Snow Road, and one of the gentlemen said that it wouldn't cost much money, and I asked, would it be $100,000? Would it be $1,000? Would it be $20,000? Exactly what changes would you like to make, and it was never brought up. My idea for doing that stuff would be to solicit private sponsors. Now, 60% of the budget for RTA, it comes from advertising. The Cleveland Indians, Cleveland Browns, Facebook, Google, Amazon receive multi-millions. Why don't we receive some money from advertising? That's where the money is, gentlemen. The economic developer director should be able to help out here. I came before council many times talking about the rec center and saving tons of capital on energy saving. Finally, action was taken. Millions were saved, though cash instead of a bond might have been a better deal. What if more energy savings were within our reach? Well, if we were to change our minds about how to get there, we could reap these benefits as other cities have. When looking at budgets of our city, we must ask, is there a payback for things we vote for? For an example, we couldn't find $40,000 to fix the HVAC in the old council chambers, but all of a sudden we had $100,000 for a new door in the sidewalk in the rec center. Isn't that something? Still scratching my head on that one. What would $100,000 do for Brick Park? What else would it do? A wind turbine generator would reduce the cost to near zero, providing emergency power to the city offices, rec center, police department, fire department. What a giant payback for a one-time investment. Oh, it's already been done at the fairgrounds. They're getting the reap of the value of it, so it's doable. Speaking of doable, you're talking about the little gazebo out there and bulbs breaking. If you went to LED lighting, they're plastic. There would be no broken glass. You'd have energy saving, and it'd last a long time. The problem's solved. There's solutions. Here's another idea for LED streetlights. Cleveland's using it now. It's going to take them 18 months to implement it. 61,000 light poles are being changed. And 1,000 cameras are being installed on the light poles to make the city safer in Cleveland.
We could use a little bit of that here, don't you think? The schools, the businesses, the rec centers. Cameras are cheap and they're good these days. I've got cameras on my house. Something happened in my neighborhood, maybe I could identify the person. And there has been things happening. Just one more thing. Brook Park must find new ways to operate. Example, Old Brooklyn, about 10 years ago, installed free Wi-Fi internet to all the residents. Take a look at the area. Libraries. People are using library computers. Ask the librarian, why is this? They will tell you they can't afford the high cost of internet service. It keeps going up, too. I've checked with other libraries, such as Berea, Middleburg, Brook Park, Fairview, Cleveland. They all have people waiting to use their computers. All because the cost of the internet is too much. There might be some advertising, but what's new about that? How is our city to stand out if we don't modernize? That plan to attract new business to the residents. Other things, senior services, ordinance 937.02. It has not been restored to the old way, which was 65 years and no income limits. Why is that important? Now with 70 and income restrictions, there are people in their mid-70s not qualified because of their IRA requirement, minimum distributions, or Roth conversions, which is stopping some of the residents from qualifying for these services, even though they would have qualified years ago. Maybe a second look is in order. And one more thing. According to the media, Wall Street Journal, it's costing retiree couples $280,000 for medical services. Why is it that cities like Fairview Park have a building dedicated to seniors, including and notwithstanding meals for $1 all day long, whether you are not a resident there? Why can't we do that? We could if we had a kitchen. There are federal funds available for that. They also have computers that were hand-me-downs from the city and are maintained by the city, including free internet service. Can Brook Park match this? Let's have a discussion. That was last week when I couldn't talk, and now I have this week. Brook Park needs a 30-year master plan. What am I talking about? I've been coming to council meetings for years. Doesn't seem like we have a master plan of where we're going. But wait, we are slapped in the face with emergency decisions to look at. What is it really we need? We should sit down and disclose how our equipment is. We should have charts prepared and available to all. This pertinent information by departments listing the facts and figures. The last caucus meeting, everybody was asking the police and the fire chief for this information. It should be in a book. You open up fire department, police department, service department, all the pertinents are there. What am I talking about? Cleveland did this years ago when they went bankrupt. A list of all roofs, square foot, type of roofing, expected life, such as 30 years. A list of all HVAC units on roofs and their tonnage, expected life. All repair records so we can see if anything is giving excessive repair costs. You wouldn't have to be asking, you'd see it in writing. All city vehicles, a list of the years, the mileage, the repair costs, the costs when new. This would include police, fire, garbage, etc. Stage all these to get a smooth floor projected for 30-year spending. Most businesses have a 30-year program. I know, I worked University Hospital and I worked Case, and they had 30-year programs. I was privy to be in some of their meetings as an electrician, make sure everything ran well, and I seen how it worked. Streets, it seems, were always deeper in the hole. Mayor tells us we needed 40 million. Now he's telling us 45 million. Why is this? Could it be we're not doing enough preventative work? I think so. It seems that near the end of the year, we will do some crack sealing if there's time, weather, and a little money. We're used to too much manpower to get the roads sealed, too. Little mileage, they're finished, and the quality is to be questioned. New automated equipment would do the work of 8 to 10 people. It will blow compressed air into the holes, torch the area to raise the temperature, and dry out the area. Apply the proper fill, finish the repair, and do a quality check. All with one operator that doesn't even have to get out of the truck. Quick equipment uses less manpower, produces a 10-fold output to repair roads. This seems to be a big thing, $45 million. Why are we there? Because we didn't do the preventative work. The automated equipment will save tons of money. The choice is yours. You can see what results are for the way we are choosing to do our road repair today. We are badly losing the game, and big Ford Motor Company is no longer there to enable to continue us down the trail. Folks, the bridge has washed out, and the cliff is staring us in the face. Now what? Brookgate Shopping Retail. Yes, we need improvements to the business, but let's remember, at one time we had Parisian Italian restaurants. Lines went around the corner to eat there, and we had a second grocery store, a Hallmark, a drugstore, which later became the first multiplex theater. Why did we lose them? Why? It's been downhill ever since. Hallmark now thrives on Bagley Road. So does Regal Theater, the Brown Derby. Mark's at Brookgate did not expand when the store next to it was empty. Ask any woman where they like to shop for Mark's, and they'll tell you Bagley Road, it's better. The people are friendlier. There's more there. It's a better deal. I don't know all the reasons, but there must be answers. Thursday, 26 April 2018, 34 degrees outside, and we had 3 days of rain, and yet there were 10 workers sealing Ingle Road. Thank God we're sealing them. But they recommend the minimum temperature at 50 degrees. The optimum temperature is 70 to 90 degrees. Here it is 34 degrees, and that's air temperature. That's not the ground, so I assume the ground temperature had to still be around 30. Okay, so we did it. So what happens? When you're outside the parameter guidelines, the work will fail prematurely. That's why we need $45 million. We're doing things that aren't the greatest. Yes, the men were working very hard. They were using compressed air to blow the cracks. I saw no torch to dry the moisture or heat the ground. 3 days of rain, automated machinery could have done it much better, much cheaper. We need new council rules too. I've been here several times when the mayor would throw a pack of paper at all you people sitting up there and say, in 5 minutes we're going to have the meeting, and this is what the meeting's on. You should have read it, but I just gave it to you 5 minutes ago. You need a rule that says anybody bringing in papers to be talked about need a 7-day waiting period so that everybody has a fair chance to review this. We need a rule. Talk about modernizing the city. How hard could that be? 7 days is going to break us to wait? What might bring a lot of good jobs to Brook Park? More Americans are aging and retiring, having major surgeries. I had 2 of them myself, 2 knees, and hips, and a lot of rehab. Nursing homes and halfway rehabs could be the answer. I went to Parma and I went to Southwest and went to rehabs for both of them. Year-round jobs, a lot of nurses, a lot of good pay. We need that. Other cities have it. Let's go steal it from them and promote it in the city. You go to the hospital, you don't go out there, you come here for your rehab. That's what we need to do. That's something every city needs. I don't see anybody doing that. Newsflash, NASA cancels plan for lunar rover. Will not be revisited. The decision is final. Folks, we are counting on the revenue from NASA. This is a sign of things to come. Trump said we're going to the moon. We're not going to the moon unless we put a rover up there first. So maybe we're not going to the moon either. That's NASA. That's one of our big tax people. News alert, Amazon headquarters 2. Cleveland area not even in the running of the top 20. Columbus made it. Nashville made it, Philadelphia made it, Chicago, the Cleveland area, none of the Cleveland area made it to the list. Why? What are we doing that other people would like to see? One more thing, the vapor barrier for a swimming pool. I have a little experience with that too. I was at University Hospital over 38 years. We had a problem like that. We had it with the equipment rooms that produced a lot of steam. We had it in the loading docks. We had it in the hallways. We had it in the swimming pool areas, the therapy areas. They got the painter to come in. He came in with like a marine paint. He mixed fiberglass. They cut it up. There's a machine that cuts it up to about 1.5 inches, fiberglass strips or fibers, embeds it in there. When he shoots this paint on, sprays it on, stuff's been there for years. And if you go to drill a hole in it, you damn near need a jackhammer because this stuff is so hard. Vapor barrier. You're going to have to paint anyway. Doesn't cost any more for the application. The material might cost you, but it would solve the problem. Here's another one. As far as the VA parking abuse, hang tags is the answer for that. You can either issue hand tags or have people copy their IDs or whatever if it became a problem. Any military guy's got some ID with them. The question of women being jailed is a puzzling one. Police station has been functioning for over 70 years. What's changed? We need some facts and figures here, year by year, to see why we really need it and how long the women are incarcerated for. That's number one. Number two, it would seem there's plenty of green space at the police department and fire department to expand whatever you need. You don't need a different location, you got a good location. You can expand, put what you need there. Bigger building for the fire department, add a separate quarters for the women if that's an issue, if it's an issue that happens often enough. I don't know why you'd build a new one. That's about it. Hope you'll discuss these things. We'll get some answers before we make decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peterlin.
Levine Cates, 15499 Remora. Okay, I want to just start with the pool area at the moment. I know you were mentioning that you had it looked at. I'd like to know who. Is it from someone from the health department? And if you were talking about core samples. Now, because of the mold, there's probably stagnant water in there. If you missed that one, you have an issue with Legionnaires. The mold, is that going to be an issue? These are things you have to wear an N95 special respirator mask for if you're exposed to this. Is this going to be a problem with the people in the rec, the residents? These are all questions that need to be asked before we mess around with anything with trying to get a roof. That's what, first things first. You can't put the cart before the horse. So if I could get some answers on that. Then about the flowers in the median over there. Now, you're saying you don't think there would be a liability. However, if you were working for the city, you'd have a workman's comp case if something happened. So absolutely there would be a liability. So that being the case, is there going to be a police officer there on the median to stop traffic? I mean, you can't have just, me running into the middle or whoever, but that's a safety issue. And then last but not least, and this was, just on Facebook, so it's probably a rumor, but maybe not, and maybe you guys can all tell me. Brook Park is leaving Parma Dispatch. So if you could let us know and keep us posted, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cates.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh.
Seeing no one else coming forward. Oh, right.
Trust me, I won't be very long.
Albert Wolf, I live at 5880 Wengler Drive. I first would like to thank the Service Department for their services, the cleaning of the sewers and the cleaning of the street. Also, the cleaning of the strip of land bordering the wall behind the Howard Johnson Hotel. This strip of land has become a dumping ground for all sorts of trash and beer bottles. As good as these services are, though, it is only a Band-Aid. We have no curbs on Wengler Drive, and the grass clippings, branches, and rubbish just get washed back into the street, and the problems start all over again. I have lived at this address for over 30 years, and I cannot remember any minor or major repairs except for patching to my street. We have some pretty good-sized craters also. We need some major repairs to our street. Another concern of mine is the Howard Johnson Inn. The wall was hit by a car early this winter and is yet to be repaired. The highway sign is in terrible shape. The pole is all rusted and terribly looking. The sign is tearing apart, and a lot of the pieces are landing in my yard and swimming pool. I've had a piece 2 feet wide and over 6 foot long land in my pool. To this day, I still have pieces landing in my yard, let alone the noise when the wind blows and the remaining sign flaps against the sign frame. If I was Bob Evans, Best Western, and Goodies, who take great care of their stores looking good, I'd be complaining to the city daily. I don't see how anyone would want to stay there with the way it looks. Overall, the city services are great, especially the fire, police, rubbish pickup, and service department. We could sure use some work on Wengler Drive. I also would like to thank Ed Orcott for the work he is doing. He has only been on council for a few months, and I have seen him and have had more return phone calls than I have had in the past 6 years. He always answers my phone calls, and he has explained what he can or cannot do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf.
Louis Modick, 14399 Fayette Boulevard. I just want to say I'm glad to hear that the dog part is still being an issue that's being discussed with council and the mayor. I love the new speed sign that is out. It says 25 miles an hour, but in the corner it's got a picture of a family and they have their dog with them. Dog park is for everybody, elderly, young. You don't have to have a dog to enjoy a dog park. And they mentioned a few new groups in Brook Park. There is one that consists of residents of Brook Park who love their dogs and are responsible dog owners. It's called the Brook Park Barkers. We're looking forward in the next couple weeks. I talked to Richard Scott. He's going to bring along Mr. Bergio. And I said at the last council meeting, we're a group that wants to sit down with administration's help. Well, we're going to be a group that's going to raise funds for a dog park. But we need the help as far as the legal things, where to put the park. I talked to the law director. She was willing to help us. I can't wait till we sit down and have that meeting, and I could bring some members of our group that want to participate and think it's a great idea. And then from that meeting, then we'll know what's going to happen over the next year or two. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Modick. Seeing no one else, we're going to move on to
Chairman,
letter.
Motion to go back to the regular order of business. Had audience participation.
Yeah.
If we don't, we're not good. Okay.
We're still in. Yep, we just finished L. Moving on to letter M. We've already completed number 2 in there, so we will start with number 1. This area is introduction of ordinances and resolutions for first reading. Item number 1 is ordinance number 11,022-2018, amending sections 331.45A and C of the Brook Park Codified Ordinances entitled Texting While Driving Prohibited and declaring an emergency, introduced by Councilman Mancini, council as a whole, and Mayor Gamella. Mr. Mancini?
If I could, real quick, just on a synopsis on this, it says, if everybody will look at it, it'll say entitled Texting While Driving, and if you go to the synopsis, it says, stop a motor vehicle holds a handheld electric device communications. Well, what it really is, if you want to go to page 2 of the ordinance, up on top, go to A. What it is to send, read, and create or interact with internet-based content, play games, otherwise internet. That would be the handheld stuff. That would be the texting and the handheld and the games, not so much to the phone, to the ear. But they do, officers do have distracted driving, and it's at their discretion. We have nothing to do with that. That's a state law. So, but I just wanted to make that, from the synopsis to this, what exactly it kind of entails. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Great, thank you. Ordinance number 11,022-2018 has had its first reading. Number 3, ordinance 11,023-2018 is the appropriation ordinance for the city of Brook Park.
Need a motion to suspend?
Support.
Motion to suspend, properly supported. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none. Michelle, please call the roll.
Salvatore?
Yes.
Orcutt?
Yes.
Bergio?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Poindexter?
No.
Mancini?
Yes.
Dem?
Yes.
6-1.
Suspension is approved.
Motion to adopt.
Support.
Motion to adopt, properly supported. Discussion.
Yes. Under discussion, council, I brought the budget to you along with the finance director on March 9th. I objected to cuts in police and fire. You cut, police 50%, fire about 50%, the emergency fund by 50% for the service department. Also, you took money from the program which allows the residents to beautify their home. I respect council, but also I want to put my objections on record, and those are them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. But to clarify, the cuts you're stating are appropriations, which is a list that is brought to you for items that could also not be related to safety or anything else. And just so the residents are aware that it was not cuts to safety, but to items that were listed.
Mr. Chairman, you cut the police department's budget in half, you cut the fire's department budget in half. How in God's name can you say those aren't cuts?
There were no employees cut.
Okay.
There was none of that, which would be the safety, sir. When you have the wants, which is a list, these were wanted items that were requests. The council turned and made budgetary cuts overall, looking at those as needs and wants. So they determined that some of these, which was a want, were not a necessity over top of the street repairs. That's where they went. So just to clarify and be upfront and honest with everybody, that's the way it was.
Okay, let's be upfront and honest. You cut police in half, you cut fire in half, you cut the special allowance in the service department for the emergency fund in half, and also you cut in half the economic development for the people in the city to redo their houses. Say it however you want to say it, but that's what it comes down to, and that's my final comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Poindexter.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I oppose the cuts as well. I think they go too deep. The police department didn't get as many cars as they wanted to get. They didn't get some other things they wanted or needed. And I object to the cuts to the police, cuts to the fire, cuts to the rec. I mean, we're putting all the money into the rec center, into the community center. And I don't think $15,000 for upgrading the entryway where everyone's going to come in through, I don't think that's too much to ask, and that was cut. The kitchen for the community room, $15,000 for a kitchen, seems pretty reasonable to me, since a household kitchen, you're lucky to get it done for $15,000, and this is a community center kitchen, so I don't think that was unreasonable. And a lot of the areas where the kids used to be able to go to in the rec are now cut off to them. because of the consolidation of the community buildings and upgrading a game room to give them another area where they can go. 15,000 for that. That wasn't unreasonable. That was cut. You know, giving the firefighters a tool to use a main piece of equipment and upgrade the door at Station 9. That was cut. So yeah, I can't support this budget. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Salvatore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You can put any terminology you want, whether you can call it cuts, you can call it whatever you want, but they were, the movement of the funds were done for a specific purpose, and that's because council, the council before this one and this one, made decisions to put some money for roads, stretching it out to 2019. We passed legislation just recently to cover some costs already in advance for expenditures in 2019. So I think it was very prudent to make some necessary adjustments. They weren't cuts. If money becomes available throughout the rest of this year, some of these things can still be done. Tonight I just heard that we're not going to do anything to the kitchen. Well, I think we are. I think that we might be able to do that kitchen for less money. And I'm sure that the director is going to find a way how to do that. It's not going to be the first time that we moved money around and came back and made changes, the necessary changes to accommodate some earlier requests. Now, I really think when you start talking about discussions about building other buildings, you know, we talk about throwing $150,000 into a building that may not be there, or making an improvement of $70,000 to a building that may not be there. I think it's in the city's best interest that we look to the future. We heard it from several people who came to the microphone tonight about looking to the future, and I think this council is looking to the future. So I think going forward, I think we'll be very glad to see that we have the money available in 2019. A portion of the money is already going to be set aside. I'm looking forward to seeing the roads program so we can finalize this year's program and see how much money is going to remain in that fund, and looking already to look at moving some more money down the road, waiting for some answers from our finance director on some other funds that may be able to be moved into this roads program for 2019. So I don't want to look like I don't want anybody to think that there was cuts made that are going to be a negative impact on this community as far as safety goes, because there's been no one around council as long as I have that have continuously always made sure that our police and fire were having a top priority. But I think putting a door up just so we can park a truck that isn't being utilized on a daily basis is something that we should look at for next year or the year after, or hopefully talking about building a new building to house that piece of apparatus. But having said all that, Mr. Chairman, could you please call the roll?
Mr. Stem.
Thank you, Council President. I had a question. Are we able to vote on adoption without a unanimous vote under suspension?
I'm sorry? 6 to 1.
6 to 1.
Yes.
6 to 1.
Okay.
Yes. Motion on the floor to suspend or to adopt, properly supported. Michelle, please call the roll.
Scott?
Yes.
Mancini?
Yes.
Stem?
Yes.
Poindexter?
No.
Salvatore?
Yes.
Bergio?
Yes.
Orcutt?
Yes.
6 to 1.
Ordinance number 11,023-2018 has been adopted. Item number 4 is resolution number 16-2018.
Introduced by Councilman Orcutt, Council as a whole, and Mayor Gamella, proclaiming June 9, 2018 as Global Wellness Day in Brook Park and declaring an emergency.
Motion to suspend?
Support.
There's a motion to suspend, properly supported. Discussion? Seeing none, Michelle, please call the roll.
Salvatore?
Yes.
Poindexter?
Yes.
Mancini?
Yes.
Stem?
Yes.
Orcutt?
Yes.
Bergio?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Motion has been approved.
Move to adopt?
Support.
Motion to adopt, properly supported.
Mr. Chair.
Mayor.
As we talked about in the caucus, I'd ask that Section 1 be removed pending the date of my meeting with Councilman Orcutt and also with the safety forces.
Thank you. Mr. Salvatore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Under adoption before the vote is when you would make the amendments, and I had all the intentions in the world with the permission of the sponsors. If it's okay, I will move forward with those amendments.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay,
Mr. Salvatore, for the record, would you state your amendments?
I would like to remove section 1. And if can I continue on that motion, or do you want to take them one at a time, Mr. Chairman?
Continue on a motion. We'll do it as a mass.
And then I would like to, added to that motion, I'd like to change the sections. Number 2 would become 1, 3 would become 2, and 4 would become 3.
So we'd just be moving all the sections up one.
Correct.
All right, so there's a motion on the floor with amendments as stated by Councilman Salvatore, properly supported.
Point of clarification. Go ahead. I didn't support that.
Okay.
I supported the first one. He made them, but no one seconded them yet. He was
Oh,
still.
I'm sorry, you're correct, you are
Yeah.
correct. Motion for the amendments was made. We don't need a second, gentlemen.
So made.
There's a motion on the floor, properly supported, for the amendments. Michelle, please call the roll.
Salvatore?
Yes.
Stem?
Yes.
Mancini?
Yes.
Poindexter?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Bergio?
Yes.
Orcutt?
Yes.
There's a motion on the floor, properly supported for adoption.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Salvatore.
prior to adoption, could we please have the whereases read?
Michelle, would you please read the whereases?
Whereas healthy citizens are needed to create healthy communities, and whereas there is a growing body of evidence that the promotion of health and well-being can help diminish the prevalence and severity of chronic diseases, and whereas this is evidence that by supporting our families and our communities' needs, we can help create positivity and good feelings throughout our city, and whereas we in Brook Park seek better vitality, health, and wellness for all our citizens, and know the importance of Global Wellness Day as a social movement devoted to living well with huge success embraced around the world. And whereas we as a community need to encourage each person to embrace responsibility for his or her own health, the health of our planet, our family units, and for each other. And whereas we acknowledge that healthier people contribute to society by being better family members, more productive employees, better students, better friends, and better citizens. And whereas the residents of our city could benefit from a day to learn about sustainable wellness practices for ourselves and our environment, and also how to provide help to and receive help from our community services. And whereas on June 9, 2018, in 100 countries around the world, millions of people will gather to celebrate Global Wellness Day and its 7-step manifesto consisting of walk for an hour, drink more water, don't use plastic bottles, eat healthy food, do a good deed, have a family dinner, go to bed at 10 p.m.
Thank you, Michelle. So there's a motion on the floor to adopt resolution number 17-2018 with the amendments properly supported. Discussion.
Point of clarification. It's a little past 10. We should have been in bed. No, I'm just kidding. I'll leave that there.
And you should also put away your plastic bottle, sir.
Okay, I recycle, so that should be in there too. Well, when we go back and we do have the mayor and Councilman Orcutt and the police chief meet, will this go back to 1 and then we just move everything back, or would we put that at 4 with the for the walking or whatever they're going to have, the running?
Well, let Councilman Orcutt answer that.
Thank you. Through the chair to the Councilman Mancini. You know what? This is a day that I think we just recognize for ourselves, everybody, all the citizens, all the residents of Brook Park, to take that extra step in your life. And you don't have to push yourself to do all these things, but just the fact that we can get that, in people. And if once the mayor and I we have that concrete 5K mapped out, I think we just have it. Get the people together at Brookgate, and we'll go from there. So I don't think it needs to be added in there. Just
Okay.
pass the word around once we get that out there. So, hey, June 9th.
June 9th.
Thank you, Councilman. Mr. Salvatore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thought I'd address that at the caucus. basically, all the mayor has to do, and it doesn't require a vote of council, is to, is provide a proclamation recognizing July 9th as this date and embracing the project, and that would suffice. I just would like to ask the sponsor, if next year when you bring this forward, if you could add a section for guys like me, have a horse riding section.
Absolutely.
You know, you
yeah.
got the
Golf cart rodeo.
I'll take the horse.
Motion on the floor, properly supported. Michelle, please call the roll.
Salvatore,
Yes.
Mancini,
Yes.
Poindexter,
Yes.
Stem,
Yes.
Orcutt,
Yes.
Bergio.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Resolution 17-2018 has been adopted with amendments. That completes letter M. Moving on to letter N, second reading of ordinances and resolutions. We have none this evening. Letter O, third reading of ordinance and resolutions. We also have none this evening, which brings us to letter P.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Salvatore.
I'd like to make a motion to address the audience.
Motion on the floor to address the audience.
Support.
Properly supported.
Thank you.
Michelle, please call the roll.
Salvatore,
Yes.
Stem,
Yes.
Mancini. Poindexter,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Bergio,
Yes.
Orcutt.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Mr. Salvatore, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to take a brief minute here and thank Dan Eberhardt for his report. I think you could be named the ambassador to Brook Park. You were very eloquently talked about what our city stands for, and some of the ideas that you brought to council, I think is really, is not going to fall on deaf ears. I want to thank you very much. I just want you to know, though, you just surpassed Jimmy Mancini for the record for the longest report.
I was
So-
thinking that when he was up there. He got me.
So I'm sure we're going to have to come up with a time limit for you when you start walking towards that podium next week. And your wife will know what time you leave here because she's watching it. I would like to also address a comment made by Mr. Peterlin. I want to think, he's still here. He's still here. I want to thank you. You always give us a written report of what you're going to talk about. And I know you'd mentioned that council should have a 7-day waiting period for legislation. And basically, we have more than a 7-day waiting period. It's up to council to decide if we are going to address it that evening, if it's an emergency or not. If we give something 3 readings, that's 6 weeks. So it's more than a 7 day. So we have a mechanism in place within the council rules. I want to come back to Mr. Eberhardt real quick. The sidewalk program is we just recessed it for this year. We go back and forth with that. Hopefully next year it'll come back and you can get back involved in it. We talked about it just a few weeks ago. And other than that, we did talk about a 5-year, 2.5% income tax a couple of years ago with the old council. And it didn't work, but again, there's a lot of options that we can look at. And finally, when you mentioned that you attended Margarita Rob, I remember you're the one that broke the window in the 6th grade. It's all coming back to me now. That was you, wasn't it? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Salvatore. Mr. Mancini.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be brief. Okay, I know you guys are thinking we still got to get back to Caucus. I see them all looking at me and they're looking at the clock. I want to go to Liz first. Liz, I think, and you hear me up here say it a lot, that I think any community involvement is good involvement. I think they all have their heart of Brook Park in there. And whether it be the boosters, beautification, and pride, they want to do the right thing. They want to do good things for Brook Park, just like you're doing out there at the gazebo. And I mean, there is some points in there that you make very valid, but one thing I will always defend is our residents that want to help out and do a lot of good things. Because I'll be honest with you, I don't see it. All right, I see, and this ain't to you, but I see and hear things on Facebook, and people will show me, who's that? I never heard of them before, and I've never seen some of them before. I'll go back another step. I never even heard of them before. Get involved and do things, and that goes to everybody. Ray, I loved your thing with BW and Berea and all that. You know, when I first looked at yours, and you were the one I met when you said, well, don't do this, but we're gonna spend money to do this. And I still say that covers about 60% of what you presented us. There's some good things in there. There's some things I totally disagree on. But, you know, I'd say to you, Ray, you're a great guy, and it is good to see you back again, too. You know, I'd like to see you back at the rec center. But, you know, there's things in here that, you know, you've kind of hit on that I think are very important to do. We can't do everything. And somebody said 18 months to go to get another company, I was RTA or something, to help us out to do it. 18, that's a long time. We don't have that time. We don't. I'm sorry. We've brought up streets. We brought up everything. We brought up cost. Mr. Poindexter brought up the things that we've cut. The mayor's brought up things that we've cut. We don't want to do that, okay? But we've got to watch how we spend. And next year, we really got to watch how we spend. So we're up here, like Joan had said, trying to, you know, tie them loose ends. It's not easy, and it's not going to be agreeable. But as I had stated 2 weeks ago, this is the administration, these are the directors, and this is the council that's going to try to do a lot of them things. We have to be bold, okay? That's what we have to do. We have to take some risk, and we need the community's help. Dan, appreciate the compliments. You always throw good advice. You brought up, and give me 1 minute, and time me. You brought up Richard being one of the worst streets. I'll be honest, and that isn't my ward. Al's right. Wengler's a terrible. So I hit Eddie one day when I was on there. I was dropping Al's beautiful granddaughter off, and I looked on that street. It's bad. Dolores is bad. There's a lot of them that are bad, but you did bring up there's a lot of them all over, but we do have to concentrate on Brook Park, and that's what we're going to do. And Lou, just love seeing you around, man. You get up to that mic and you just go. I know you want that dog park, and we do too. And you know, I'm glad you get involved, Lou. I didn't know you before I got up here. I'm glad I know you now. So thanks for coming, and everybody, thanks for sticking it out. It's 10:35, ain't easy to do. So thank you, Brandy. You too over there. So that's all I have.
Thank you. That was only 59 seconds, sir. Mr. Orcutt.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'll be brief here. Great job by everyone again. Mr. Eberhardt, you have great vision. The glass is 3/4 full, and it's a lot about education. You talked about how that tax came up in 2014. I think that people were, obviously, and that's America, they were campaigning against that tax. I also think that the people that were pushing the tax forward could have done a better job. It was the best display of money I've ever seen. That was done on November 7th of 2014. That was done by our finance director. He gave the state of the city and explained how the money comes in and how we spend it. Unfortunately, those taxes went up on the ballot on August 5th, a few months prior. So that was a little bit of an issue, but I like how you're thinking. You have very good vision. And I want you to know about the HMAP program. I know there's been some rumors out there and on Facebook that it's been cut from $100,000 down to $40,000, and I know you're well aware because you do follow that budget. It actually was cut from $50,000 to $40,000, and the reason why, at least personally, the Ward 3 councilman did some of those cuts in the shaving was we lost 200 jobs at Ford. 93, I had those in my notes as well. 93 jobs at Ford Intermediate School. Or with the elementary schools as well, too. Eaton Corporation, we lost jobs there. So there's a lot that went into it. It was a lot that went into that. And of course, the 2019 roads program. So that's where it came from. And just so everybody knows that we did not shave anything from the essential tools from our police or safety or fire. And then to Mr. Wolf, you and I share the same thoughts with that hotel. It's absolutely deplorable. It's our welcoming mat, and it needs to stop. It has to stop. That's the first building you look at when you come off Interstate 71 and you exit out into Snow Road. So thank you very much. It was very brave of you to come up here and do that, and I appreciate that. Mr. Peterlin, detail, your attention to detail as usual. You know, that's probably the military in you, and I really appreciate you coming up here and talking about a lot of the conversations we've had for years. And it was on energy savings. So a lot of the things that you do bring to the podium are great ideas, and I would just welcome you to keep coming, and thank you for all your nice ideas that you always do bring. That's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Orcutt. Mr. Bergia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had some very informative people here, and the reports, Ray, you always give a lot of good ideas because of your background, and I always take this and I look through it because there's a lot of stuff in here that could be implemented, so I always kind of keep that in front of me and review it at times too. Dan, very good report. You covered a lot of good issues there too. I'm afraid you may be getting in trouble with your wife again because we've had so many short meetings. Now you're going to be coming home late tonight. She's just going to wonder why, because we don't have long meetings anymore. So hope you don't get in trouble again. Mr. Modick, I think we have some interest in the dog park again. I know the mayor showed some support for it too, if we can find a way and the right place for it. I think you mentioned too. And so I think it is not dead. That's something that I introduced for discussion in 2008. Sometimes good things take time, but having the community behind it is a real good thing because it brings people together and they're part of the process. And I think it's a real good, healthy thing. And with anything like that, I've seen the other off-leash dog parks. I visited the other ones too. The community has an interest in it. They have like an ownership in it. They take care of it. And anything like that brings the community together, just like the annual dog swim. It's been very highly successful. It's only one day, but people come out, people are happy, people are meeting people, neighbors that they didn't really know, and I think it's just a good thing for the community, so I look forward to meeting with you and Councilman Scott, and maybe we can get things rolling, and I think there's still hope for it, so thanks for your interest on that too. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Bergia. Anyone else? Seeing no one else, I'll
Motion to adjourn.
Support.
motion to adjourn properly supported. Michelle, please call the roll.
Salvatore?
Yes.
Orcutt?
Yes.
Bergio?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Stem?
Yes.
Mancini? Poindexter?
Yes.
Motion is approved. Council meeting is adjourned at 10:40. I'll entertain a motion to go back to the regular caucus meeting.
Motion to reconvene the caucus meeting.
Support.
Motion to reconvene the caucus meeting properly supported. Michelle, please call the roll.
Salvatore?
Yes.
Stem?
Yes.
Mancini?
Yes.
Poindexter?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Bergio?
Yes.
Orcutt?
Yes.
All right, motion is approved. We're back to the regular caucus meeting. We left off at number 4. Council summer session schedule. Councilman Scott, per Council President Vecchio. Councilman Scott, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I just got together with some dates. I sat down and tried to condense council, hopefully. I put down some removal of some following caucus dates. We talked earlier that once we had the budget done, that we would look at moving forward and remove some month-end caucus dates. Then I also looked at the summer session. Our summer session was 1 week on, 1 week off, 1 week on, 1 week off. Basically what I did, I just looked at it, tried to condense that also. Tried to make it 4 weeks, which the 1 week of July 31st is off anyways, that's the 5th Tuesday. And then I looked at some removal, some meeting dates due to the fact we have 2 elections. One is the general election November 6th, one's the May caucus, May 8th, and then I looked at eliminating the December 26th caucus altogether due to the fact that it was Christmas, New Year's holiday. Then I also proposed the addition of the July 17th meeting, which was previously removed. Bring that back, even though if you read the charter states we do not have to hold any meetings on the months that we are in recess. So I was hoping to put this on before we went through the other items on the caucus, on the council session, but hey, you guys do it. I'm just Summer session, I was looking at the families. We've got family members here. 1 week on, 1 week off, 1 week on, 1 week off for 2 months. That just, in my eyes, didn't make any sense. The past 2 years, we never had a summer recess. So, like I said, this was all open for debate, all for discussion. So I'm just looking at some talk on this. That's all.
Thank you. Mr. Orcutt?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair to Councilman Scott. You were trying to move back here basically for May 8th. Is that what you were trying to move that forward to under the council for that date only?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay,
we
all
got
right.
we got a caucus. We got a caucus on that, and there's a general election. We've got a gentleman here that's running for the office. I volunteered to help him at the polls, and I don't know if anybody else here volunteered to help him. But hey, it is what it is. If we want to hold a meeting on it, I'll be here. And good luck, Mr. Bergio.
Well, you also, Mr. Orcutt, you also have the general election that he mentioned, November 6th.
No, I seen that, but I was talking about that. He was trying to get back to get this on the council meeting. The other question I had was, is this all going to be in one vote where we're going to do the removal of caucus meetings, dates, and redo the summer session? Is that the intent, to do it all in one?
That's up to you guys.
Chairman.
I just presented it for discussion. If
Okay, well, and that's good, because I would like to mention, and I know we've had some discussion in the background, the caucus meeting dates that are on here. I, for one, I'm very, I think this council has been very progressive. They've been very good with stuff, and I think at this point, I can't support removing of any caucus meeting dates. With the scheduling for vacations and stuff like that, if that works for everybody, I will support that. And that's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Salvatore?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I as one councilman would prefer dealing with these individually. I'm really not in favor of removing any of the caucus meetings, as evidenced by tonight. We're going to be looking at 4 hours tonight. And by cutting meetings, all we're going to do is make other meetings 4 and 5 hour meetings. I'm not going to support cutting of the 1, 2, 5 meeting nights. As far as the May 8th caucus meeting, there wasn't a second for your motion. If Carl wanted to have that off, he should have made a second.
Somebody else would have made a second also.
Pardon?
Nobody else made a second, so I thought somebody would. And then you mentioned that died because of no second. Kind of quickly, I thought.
But you could, I didn't make it quickly. No one made the second motion. I mean,
It seemed like it's kind of quick to me. I thought it was.
well, you could have made it. I mean, if you would have said something.
You could have made a second too.
Gentlemen, what?
But anyway, getting back to, I would hope that we would deal with these individually. And as far as the summer session that's already been approved and adopted, I guess I would like to ask council members if any of you have made any vacation arrangements based on the schedule that we've already passed. Because if you have, then I don't want to see that changed either, because I don't want to see anybody have to change their plans that they've already made. So I guess I'd like to hear from everybody as far as the dates that we've already picked.
Well, let's do this. For myself, I think we need to start and go in numerical order. The very first one that we need to discuss right now is next week's May 8th meeting. And then we'll go down from there. So start with May 8th, and we'll go around the room and determine what you guys would like to do.
You can't do that.
We can discuss about it to go around this room to find out.
Are we going to have a council meeting to change that?
Well, gentlemen, this is a council rule. It's a council, these are set on council rules, which were originally, those council rules were originally discussed at the first meeting of council, which was the organizational meeting.
These are changes, Mr. Chairman.
I understand,
And they have to be introduced, just like Mr. Scott did. He's introducing it
Right.
at a caucus, and then they have to be moved to the next council meeting for consideration and verbal approval.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but is it being a meeting of the whole, a committee of the whole meeting, the law director could weigh into this if a decision, if it needs to go past, if it could be made for tonight in the caucus meeting, or does it need to go to a council meeting? I defer to the law director myself. Madam Law Director?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's certainly a good question. A caucus meeting is a regularly scheduled meeting of council, that we know. We also know that traditionally these matters are put on a caucus and then later moved to a meeting. It seems to me, and certainly I could do a little bit more research on this, but to me it seems like your biggest issue is what to do for next week. I certainly think it would be permissible to make a decision tonight with that one particular date. If the rest should properly be deferred to another meeting, as it's been traditionally done, or council can just defer all of them to May 8th, but then you will be having a meeting May 8th if you defer it. So that's kind of the practicality of it. I think you need to, it's been introduced tonight, but I do think you need to move all of this schedule to a meeting, a council meeting for further discussion. And, next week's meeting, I'll leave to you as to how you want to handle that, as to whether that may or may not be permissible to discuss tonight. I apologize for my voice. I've been a little under the weather this past week. So I promise you next week, if you have a meeting, I won't sound like this.
Thank you, Madam Law Director. So, Mr. Mancini?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you remember, before we went to the caucus, I had said that on my texting that I said I didn't care if it, we suspended it or it took the 3 readings, but I kept asking, about May 8th. I kept saying, that's next week, it's an election. I feel a little uncomfortable if we have to cancel that out tonight in the caucus. I do. I totally respect our law director's opinion she gave us, but I gotta say how I feel on that. But I kept asking that it's election day, and no one really, it was like, that's all I have.
3 members of council can call for a special meeting also. So you guys have that option also.
Mr. Chairman?
Mayor?
Gentlemen, being a long-term member of council, past practice, and Carl, Rick, correct me if I'm wrong, past practice has always been, we never hold a council meeting on election day. It's always the next day, Wednesday. That's been a past practice, and I've been here almost 30 years.
Mr. Mancini?
Thank you. Through the chair to the mayor, but Mayor, did you make a decision like that at a caucus? Like that we're debating on right now? I believe it should be a vote at a council meeting. That's just.
Mr. Salvatore?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Past practice does matter, but the past practice was that way because they were using this chambers to vote in. They're not using it now. And I don't believe that we can take verbal action by moving it to a special, moving it from here to the council meeting that was scheduled for tonight would have been improper, in my opinion. I probably would have abstained or not voted or voted no because I don't think it's proper. And that has nothing to do with Carl running. I hope Carl runs and I hope he wins, and I'll work the polls for you and I'll do whatever I can to help you.
You won't be able to work the polls next week, sir.
No, I can work them until 5 minutes. We can always push the meeting back by 7 members of council signing off on it. We can make it a 7:30 meeting, or we can make it an 8 o'clock meeting if everybody signs off on that. But I feel uncomfortable changing rules at a caucus. I wouldn't support that. It has to be moved to the next regularly scheduled council meeting as per the rule. So that's where I'm at, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Mr. Scott?
That's why I asked if we should put it back on the agenda, and I got no support from anybody, so I tried to get this moved forward. that's why I made the suggestion that we put a recess on a regular council meeting, jump back, finish out these two items, and I had no support on it, so, Carl, it is what it is, buddy.
Mr. Orcutt,
Yes, well, do we have the answer in front of us? Are we allowed to move this caucus meeting that we're talking about back till 8 o'clock? Can we do that from this meeting here?
but if you're gonna, here's the thing. So you're pushing it a little bit in that if somebody's gonna help Mr. Bergio, that would mean you're gonna have to, whatever time you're working with him or whatever, you're gonna try to make it here in time.
Well,
I think we're juggling a lot.
I can make myself on time. And I would too, to support Councilman Bergio, which I have been doing for the last few months, and I do hope he wins as well. But I'm just saying that maybe we can move on from this if we move this back to 8 o'clock. Is that something that can be done?
Hi. Or
Mr. Mancini.
a special meeting on Monday, just, you know, I like the schedule. Councilman Scott, I do. I didn't think we need them caucuses the end of the month, but, I mean, we got the budget done, things of that sort, but could we call a special meeting Monday, just come, we'll cancel out Tuesday, and everybody does what they want on Tuesday, no? All right.
Everybody has to have at least 24-hour notice, especially the press.
Had a rule change.
It's Saturday.
Scheduled meeting.
So the way it would be to call a special meeting, obviously 3 members of council, myself or the mayor. You can call for any day as long as there's 24-hour notice. And what is on the agenda?
Nothing.
There you are.
Cancellation of the meeting, okay.
I have a question.
Mr. Poindexter.
You could call for a special meeting, you know, anybody here, three members of council, anybody could call for a special meeting, to set a meeting that isn't scheduled, but could you cancel a meeting in the same manner? You know what I mean?
Well,
Could you cancel a meeting in the same manner?
If given enough time, yes, there has to be over 24 hours. So, for instance, if 3 members or myself or the mayor called for a special meeting, we called for that special meeting on Friday, and you ran through this and you decided to cancel Tuesday.
I'm not saying to call for a special meeting. I'm saying, couldn't you cancel a meeting in the same manner that you call for a special meeting? As long as you cancel it with so much notice.
Yes. 24-hour notice.
Without a vote.
Right.
I mean, 3 members could say.
Could be, yes.
So.
By charter rule, yes. But again, I mean, as we're discussing it, there's multiple items on this, so, I mean, it seems like some are in favor, some are not. So obviously, this is going to be a discussion that council needs to have to decide what your plans are, beginning with May 8th and going all the way through Mr. Scott's proposals down through December 26th. So the dates are in between there, summer session, everything else. I think that you know, if we're going to arbitrarily attack these one at a time, we're wasting everybody's time. I think if you're going to do it as a wholesale, make it as one and be done with it. One motion, and figure out what days you're going to do. Make it as one motion and be done with it. Mr. Bergio.
Mr. Chairman, you're talking about possibly doing it on a Monday. We have, Monday would not be a good day to schedule another meeting because of the Planning Commission meeting and Board of Zoning Appeal, unless it was early.
Correct.
That's what I'm saying, early
Right.
or whenever.
Right, and it was just a day thrown out of many days that are possible, so.
Says we can't.
Council, I need an action. What you're planning, what you want to do. I mean, you guys want to continue discussing this? You want to make a motion on this? What do you want to do?
I make a motion, please, on the next caucus agenda for discussion.
Motion to place council summer session schedule on the next caucus agenda for discussion.
No, caucus. It'd
Okay,
be
right, next caucus.
15th.
I'm sorry?
Isn't that May 8th?
That's the motion he just made, to put it on the next caucus agenda. He's looking for support.
That's the date.
May
Too late
8th,
for May
right?
8th.
Well, they're gonna have to call a special meeting. I mean, we're gonna have to call a special meeting. It's not gonna be done. Since it didn't get on the agenda.
All right. Mr. Mancini.
Just asking one last time, is there a problem having a special meeting going over, I don't know, Friday? I don't know, I just,
Again, council, if you
that call?
want to hold a special meeting, 3 members of council can call for that special meeting. Could be a special caucus, can be a special council meeting.
Right.
That's at your discretion.
special council meeting with this on the agenda. I don't think it'll, we're gonna have time to look at it, so I don't think it'll be, you know, I don't think it's gonna be a 4-hour meeting, but I'm done.
All right, so the motion dies for a lack of second, Mr. Scott.
Fine.
As it stands right now.
It won't be the first time.
Mr. Salvatore.
Thank you. I would recommend that we look at the May 8th caucus meeting and have the law director research it to see if council, by a unanimous sign-off, can cancel that meeting. And then if we can, then we can do that, if that's what the majority of members of council want to do. And you can let the clerk know, and then we can move from there. If it requires a special meeting to be called to do it, then we do it. And if we can't do it, we can't do it.
Madam Law Director, how soon, I mean, obviously tomorrow would be the earliest you could look at that. When do you think you would have a decision on that?
I'll certainly look at that tomorrow and would have, certainly want to have it no later than Thursday morning.
Thank you.
Point of information, 1 more hour will be tomorrow, Carol. Just some levity, that's all.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm always bad with those numbers. I appreciate that.
Actually, yeah. Just so you clarify, because obviously our charter in section 4.05 is very nondescript for our actions.
Well done. Motion that the rest of it was discussed.
Support.
Motion on the floor that number 4 was discussed.
Everything else was discussed except for, we're going to wait for the law director's opinion on the May 8th meeting.
We still have another item after this.
Yeah, I understand.
So your motion on the floor is that the rest of the agenda has been discussed?
No.
Well, all right, that's
The
my
meeting
question.
dates.
Okay. So,
Except the May 8th.
motion on the floor that the meeting dates except for May 8th have been discussed, properly supported. Discussion?
Bring it
Michelle,
back
please call the
up.
roll.
Salvatore?
Yes.
Poindexter?
Yes.
Mancini? Stem?
Yes.
Orcutt?
Yes.
Perugio?
Yes.
Scott?
No.
Motion passes 6-1. Moving on to item number 4, Legislative Committee Chairman Mancini.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First off, okay, I'd like to go to the law director. I know Councilman Salvatore last week had asked on that question about, I believe it was doing multiple, if we could do both. Do we get any answers on that?
Okay, when you say you think we can we do multiple, can we do both? I'm assuming you're talking about penalties?
No, I'm assuming, well, you kind of asked, but I'm assuming that, you know, with the handicap parking there, I mean, would there be an issue statewide legally? I really don't see it, but I believe like we could maybe do it kind of how we wanted. What the purpose of this is, for the audience that's still listening, was to do, we have the Purple Heart. We're not going to take that away. But you have veterans that can't use that, to have a veteran parking right next to it that's marked. Okay, that's what this piece is about. plain and simple. So if a veteran, he doesn't have to park at the end of the parking lot, whatever, there's the open veterans there, he can't park at a Purple Heart, so he could pull into the veterans parking. Okay, he's probably got a veteran's plate or on his license, so that's the
I
purpose
see
of
no
this.
reason why you couldn't do a veteran spot
Okay.
if you desired.
Because we definitely want to take care of our veterans also, as well as our Purple Heart, as well as our handicap. So, you know, as my travels, as we've done this Purple Heart here, I think we're going almost on our third year on it. There hasn't been a lot of participation in the Purple Heart, although we do want to respect them and we appreciate everything they did. So the reason bringing this forward, again, you see men with veterans hat that don't have handicap, that take that long walk, that may have some physical issues, and to put a veteran right there. So, Councilman Salvatore, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm all for moving forward with this. I mean, if you know the history of Brook Park, it was built by veterans, from World War II veterans. And I think that this is a good resolution, Councilman, and I'd like to make a motion that we move it to the next council agenda.
Support.
Motion's been made to put this piece to the next council agenda, properly supported, under discussion. Clerk, call the roll.
Salvatore,
Yes.
Orcutt,
Yes.
Bergio,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Poindexter,
Yes.
Mancini,
Yes.
Stem,
Yes.
Okay. The veteran parking space will be moved to the next council agenda. Don't have any changes. That'll be on, bless you, May 15th. So,
Thank you, Mr.
I want to tell
Mancini.
everybody, thank you very much. Mayor, go ahead.
No, I have a
Mr.
comment
Mancini, I've
after
got
we're
it.
done.
Mayor, go
Okay.
ahead.
All right.
Thank you.
I thank everybody and thank our veterans and Purple Heart.
Council, our dispatch contract is up in November. Right now, our dispatch is in Parma. We had till April 30th, midnight, to make a decision on whether we would go stick with Parma or let them know we're exploring other options. Again, to let them know we're exploring other options. I sent that letter late yesterday. I didn't have time to call an executive session at that time. I had asked if we could call one today, but we were untimely. So I just want to let you know, next week I will be calling an executive session with the chiefs to explain. And again, it looks like, personally, myself, the chiefs, would like to go with Strongsville for reasons we'll cover. I think Parma did a very admirable job, but I think Strongsville fits in us a lot better with the mutual aid, the COG, the radio frequencies, the direct wiring here, the fiber optic cables, and so on. So again, we'll call an executive session whenever the next council meeting or caucus meeting is.
Mr. Salvatore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair to the mayor. I appreciate, Mayor, that you're letting us know about that. My question is, how in the heck did that leak out, and how did Facebook?
Well, Rick, I can say this, it wasn't you, because I didn't tell you, or anybody, and we just found out late yesterday, as Carol can say, we had to get the letter over, I had a courier actually bring the letter over, and again, we have options, we can go to Chagrin, which I really don't want to do, but Strongsville is by far the best fit, but again, we'll let council decide that. But I had a decision to make, time was running out, and I thought, well, after talking with the chiefs, we've got to do something to protect the residents, because one blown 911 call, and we've got a problem. And again, I'll let the chiefs explain it, but again, in the end, it's going to be your decision. So I just wanted to let you know before you go home and see it on Facebook. I don't know how it got out, but
Will that meeting be on May 8th?
yes. At whatever next meeting is, we'll call an executive session, I'll have the chiefs in there, and we'll go over it.
Thank you.
Welcome, Mayor.
Motion to adjourn?
Support.
Motion to adjourn, properly supported. Michelle, please call the roll.
Salvatore,
Yes.
Mancini,
Yes.
Stem,
Yes.
Poindexter,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Bergio,
Yes.
Orcutt.
Yes.
Good night, everyone.